I'd like to call to order the Washington Township Planning Commission meeting for June 11th, 2026. If you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. You're welcome. All right, thanks for coming out, everybody. I want to start off the meeting. We have a new Planning Commission member. This is Peter Dukai. He's joining us for the first time tonight. And then also I'd like to, moment of silence for John Rena, past member of the PC, who passed away this past month, and just wanted to take time to recognize his efforts in donating his time to the community and what we do here. So if anybody would bow their head for a second, just a moment of silence. Thank you, appreciate it. And we can move on to roll call, Dana.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Thomas?
Here.
Mr. Jaski?
Here.
Mr. Chaplin?
Here.
Ms. Hall?
Here.
Mr. Robb?
Here.
Mr. Dukai?
Here.
And get a approval of the agenda for the June 11th, 2026.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Approval of the minutes from the April 9th, 2026 PC meeting. As printed.
Make a motion to approve. Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Any correspondence, Dana?
No correspondence.
Thank you. Now would be the time for public comment on any of the non-agenda related items. So if anything's on the agenda, this is not the time to speak. But if you have anything that is not on the agenda tonight, feel free to proceed to the podium.
My name is Paul Reno. I'm just looking for some clarification because where you have this listed, it says for the old business that the public hearing closed. So does that mean we don't talk now? We don't, do you see what I'm saying?
Oh, the public hearing is at the original meeting.
So these are notes from a prior meeting?
Yeah, there's just a note
Because
next to it
on A,
that says,
the first line says rezoning request, public hearing closed.
Yeah,
Does that mean?
the official public hearing was closed?
Okay.
Typically, we will entertain conversation on that item.
well, it's, the request for that is to withdraw. That's the request that the Planning Commission would
Oh,
be making,
my
because
fault.
they request to withdraw their rezoning application. So that's the notation there. So that would be the action that the Planning Commission is just accepting the withdrawal.
Okay, so we
Yes.
have to accept the withdrawal because we didn't
Yeah.
have a meeting last month.
So it's not, there's not discussion on that particular item because it
Just a
is,
withdrawal of that item.
yes.
Okay.
And
Okay, so then there will be time to talk about the second part that says the zoning amendments?
Yeah, the zoning amendments, we will have discussion.
I just wanted to make sure, because it wasn't clear to me that there was going to be a time to talk about that.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely. Name and address for the record, if you would.
My name's Scott Shearhart, and I guess I drew the short straw amongst my friends and neighbors. The reason why I'm here is that I'm going to ask for your assistance on how to create an ordinance for to not allow short-term rentals.
Sure.
So what is my next process? So I'm here, I've put this out.
I think ultimately with that, you would probably petition your local political figures to see if it's something that they would push towards the planning commission for developing an ordinance. So
if
we
that's
don't
not
bring those
you, who
forward,
is that, right?
ordinance change or?
Yeah, so if you want to email or call Board of Trustee members on the Township website, or Dana, if you want to coordinate with him maybe after the meeting to hand out that contact information, that would be the best point of contact, because this board doesn't initiate ordinance amendments unless asked by the board or ZBA.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah, the reason why I'm here is because I called and asked all this before, with somebody, and they said this is the first step to the process.
Yeah, and if it is a zoning ordinance, I know some municipalities are moving them forward as regulatory, some are moving them forward as zoning, so it depends.
So go through the board of
If
trustees.
if the Board of Trustees decides they want to bring it to us as a zoning ordinance, it would come here. If it's a regulatory ordinance, it would just go to the board. If I'm correct, right? Okay.
Okay, so then run it through the board of trustees
Yeah,
first, and then have it go from there.
And you can email, if you want to email this to its comments at washingtontwpmi.org, which is all on the township website. You can also go on there and it'll list the township board members and their email addresses. You can send everything in a request for them to initiate or send to the planning commission, or however, which way they want to handle it, if it's through local or zoning.
Okay.
And then if you want to list your concerns as to why you're,
Oh, for sure. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, that's like, my
I know
neighbors
there's a
and
lot of
we're prepared
HOAs
to.
too. A lot of HOAs that outlaw it as well, so if you have an HOA at all, these there's always
Unfortunately, I live in
entertaining
one of
that within
the
your
older
own-
subdivisions in Washington Township, so we're under, just a local rule. Right, thank you.
Sounds good. And any other further comment? Oh, please.
Can I just get a point of clarification?
Can you
So
come to
is-
the podium, please?
Sorry.
No problem.
I just want to get a point of clarification. So item 8 alpha, is that considered on the agenda or not on the agenda?
It is on the agenda to withdraw their request to withdraw.
Okay, so there will be an availability for public comment on this agenda item?
No, that's a closed session. I mean, a closed public hearing.
Okay,
So-
what about 6B?
6B.
Or I mean 8B, I'm sorry, 8B. I stand
Or
corrected.
8B, there will be public comment.
Okay, all right, fine. Thank you.
It's open discussion about our ordinance, or proposed ordinance. Hello?
I just wanted to make a quick comment about the agenda notes. We'd appreciate it if going forward, there was more detailed explanation in the record around what public comments said relating to ordinances and data centers. So you can see from other examples, there's more detail about, speakers said X, Y, and Z, and then the summaries for data centers have been just, people spoke about multiple things about data centers, and I know it's important to build a public record, so I'd appreciate there could be a little more detail in the notes for what's being said on public comment relating to data centers and ordinances.
The public comment is also the video, correct? I mean, the
Yeah.
video is the public record of
Right.
our.
yeah,
The meeting minutes are the
the
official.
minutes, yeah.
I mean, but we don't have to note every.
You don't have to, you either have to do it one way or the other. Either you're verbatim or you're summarizing,
Okay.
but having a mixture of both, is,
No, it's got to be.
we followed the same format that, and I know our legal counsel has advised us on it too, so.
Yeah.
So, okay, there's just a little more description on other items than that. So I know we say a lot of things and talk a lot, but that was just a comment we wanted to make.
Appreciate it. Further public comment? Public comment on non-agenda related items is now closed. We'll move on to new business. We have Baroness Estates preliminary condo 1-year extension request for parcel 240424 2000001, 002, and 003, 70 single-family residential units proposed on 104 acres, south side of 29 Mile and east side of Shaner. Do you want to break this down for us, Kayla, or is it?
It's
It's just an extension on an approved?
Correct.
Okay, we don't have anything.
Yeah, they are working with DPW right now, because I know they're trying to extend water. So that has taken a little bit more time. So they're just asking for this. Per ordinance, the planning commission is able to grant up to, an additional year. So that's what they're asking
And they're
for.
working with our team to try to get this development moving. I have no objection to that. Any comment from? Is that the east side or the west side? It is the east side of Van Dyke, south side of 27 Mile Road. Or, I'm sorry, south of 27 Mile Road.
29.
East of
29.
Looking at the.
I'm reading the next one, my fault, 29, south side of 29 Mile, east of Shaner.
Right, there's not that much property over there. Okay, versus the farm that's on the west side.
It's the old Trombley sod farm.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
that's further east.
I'll make a motion to approve the 1-year extension on the already approved Baroness Estate.
Support?
Any further comment? Take roll call, Dana.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Chaplin?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Jaski?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Rob?
Yes.
Mr. Dukai?
Yes.
Motion passes. Now we're on to item 7B, Nello's Car Wash Site Plan Review, minor revision to the approved site plan at 58990 Van Dyke, parcel 240434 101 005, location south side of 27 Mile and east of Van Dyke, east of Van Dyke.
Good evening, Board. So I am Troy Adam. I'm the owner of Washington Car Wash. Last time we were here, we got a variance approval to add a drive lane in the rear. For anyone that's not familiar with what we're doing, we're planning a complete renovation of the building. As you can see, we're also adding a touchless automatic to our furthest south bay. And that's pretty much what we're doing. So I'm here looking for my site plan to be approved and open to answer any questions you guys might have.
Anybody have any comments? Or any comments from the planner?
Yes, and I believe engineering had some as well. So we saw this at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting last month. The applicant had asked for a variance on the side yard landscaping. Otherwise, this site is fairly constrained. If you're familiar with where this is, it's a Van Dyke address, but actually on 27 Mile Road. So right in front of the multi-tenant plaza there. This car wash has been in operation since 1988, roughly. It's an existing non-conforming use in this zoning district, but the applicant is not making any changes to the footprint of the building. What they're proposing actually adds facade that brings the building closer into compliance with the village design guidelines and the standards of the village center district. Within the wash bays, one of those bays is being turned into an automatic car wash, so it's a system that gets built within the existing footprint. That's what's necessitated the change to the paving area on the east side of the site, because our ordinance requires that drive aisle and stacking space to be able to get into the automated car wash. So the variance was approved by the Zoning Board of Appeals. As far as the site plan as a whole, there were two things that planning noted. The first is that the proposed materials on the north and south building elevations need to be modified. I think you were close to like 75%. We just need to get to that 90%.
When we were working on it, we were the north end, so by the vacuums there, we just were looking at it as just so much stone. So we wanted to give a visual break of the stone, and it's going to be hardy shake cement board. So we were kind of anticipating just that break. So we figured the higher we go with stone, it just gives a nice visual break. And then on the south end, that is not viewable to anyone in any orientation of the building. So technically, that south end is an alleyway, so we were going to leave it painted masonry which matches all the existing plaza around us.
Yeah, and with this, because the facade is being updated, the standard has to be met
Okay.
for each of those facades, unless you were to seek a variance, right, which would be going back to the zoning board of appeals.
okay.
So that was our note, and then the only other item was accessible parking spaces.
So I updated the A100, I believe it is. So that is actually updated. We're going to put accessible parking. Again, we're existing, we're constrained. There is nowhere really for us to put a dedicated space. So we're going to put the space in between the two vacuums. I believe it's the other one that's on there. That's the survey. It should be, there it is right there. So the handicap parking is going to be dedicated between the two vacuums on the north end of the building. So that's the only place we could foresee it logically and realistically going.
Will it be striped and
Yes.
enough room for doors to
Yep,
open?
yep.
Okay.
Yep, we can stripe it.
Okay.
You know, in regards to your elevation,
Sure.
is he meeting our standards, our ordinance? With
He-
That's
the,
what-
So close, yes. Yep, so the building facades are all being updated.
Okay.
And so because of that update, we need to get to that 90% brick or stone.
so the hardy board is not an accepted?
Correct. It has to be brick or stone, yeah.
So to keep it
Just
as
want
is,
to be
we-
clear.
yeah, we would need the variance to keep it as is, otherwise we need to update it to the 90%. Okay.
Yep.
That's understandable.
Yep.
Thank you.
So if you wanted to keep that same look, like it could be a different color stone in that offset or whatever that looks like.
Okay,
Works
so
your
for
team.
the peak, we could change that to a different type of color stone, just as long as it's a stone material.
I think the peak was okay. It was that black inset was where the,
Could you go back to the,
let me find it in my notes here. So the part that's colored in white, like on the south side of the elevation.
okay. That's existing block, that's what we're talking there?
Right.
Okay,
Yep, so that would just need to be covered as well.
okay.
And with that, you should be getting really close
Okay,
to
so
the
just so
90.
we're clear, the upper part of the A-frame that's hardy shake right now, we need to bring in more stone there?
Yes.
Okay, and then on the south side of the building, needs to be complete stone?
Yep, so 90% on each facade. So you could have 10% kind of accessories that ACM or cedar shakes or, sorry,
Now,
concrete
is
shakes.
block on the south side, is that acceptable or is that not acceptable?
It all has to be the brick or stone
Okay.
with that update.
Okay, so there's no accordance for what is considered the back of a building or rear of a building?
No, every facade.
Okay. So it's a touchless automatic too, it's not a tunnel, just to be clear on it, it's a touchless system.
You're seeing a lot of those convert over.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, so, no, I like the fact that it's coming closer into alignment with the village standards.
We appreciate that.
You know, you are a non-conforming use, and we'd like to see those go away, but, you know,
Yeah.
you're not making any major changes, other than updating the look of the building and adding some convenience, so.
Yeah, the building has seen its age, so it's going to be nice to upgrade the building. And one thing I didn't even consider in this process, including the automatic, also makes the property way more handicap accessible, because right now you have to exit your vehicle to wash the car. The automatic allows you to never exit the vehicle, which is not only good for handicap, limited mobility, and also busy moms too. So we're expanding the availability of customers.
That is a good point.
It's definitely a step in the right direction. We appreciate you putting the money and the
Trying.
efforts into the building.
So we stay busy. The community's been really good to us. You guys have been good to us. So we're just trying to go on to the next step for the next 30 years, and we're not selling out. So I know Jax is buying everyone up around us. That's not going to happen. So I was born 2 miles away from here, and I'm staying. So
I appreciate
we're here
it.
for the long run.
Any further discussion from the commission? Any,
Barry, sorry, I'll just.
Oh, there was-
my letter's in your packet.
My fault.
No, no worries, don't
Sorry.
apologize. Just a couple of very minor comments that are required by ordinance, some of the items that needed to be added to the survey related to the legal description, benchmarks, making sure that the survey is actually signed by a registered surveyor. And then we just wanted a note added to his site plan sheet that just indicates that anywhere where they're touching pavement, that the existing drainage patterns will be matched and they're not going to push water onto adjacent parcels. So, besides that, looked good.
So to comment on that, I do have the whatever the.
AS 100
Yes, yeah,
version.
AS 100,
Yeah.
whatever that declaration is, that is in the bottom corner of the updated site plan that I haven't provided to you guys yet.
Okay.
And then the survey, I provided a non-signed copy. I do have a signed copy. Working on the benchmarks, that's something that's well out of my scope of understanding, so.
If you have a surveyor that you're in contact with, if you want to have them reach out to us, we have some township established benchmarks that may be in the area along 27 Mile Road that might be enough to suit.
Because we're not planning any grading changes.
Understood,
Or topography
yeah.
changes or anything. Like
And that's one that if I can get just something so there's some elevation reference out there, then,
Gotcha.
then we're probably good.
Perfect.
Great.
Okay.
Any public comment? Welcome to proceed to the podium. Seeing none, any commission discussion or entertain a motion?
I go ahead and make a motion to approve the minor site plan revision for Nello's Car Wash located at 58990 Van Dyke, parcel number 24-04-34-101-005, contingent on the materials upgrades for the exterior and coming to compliance with the request for the benchmarks and engineering review,
ADA space as well.
and including the ADA space. Thank you.
I'll second.
Good roll call, Dana?
Mr. Chaplin?
Yes.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Jaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Hall?
Yes.
Mr. Rob?
Yes.
Mr. Dukai?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you. Appreciate
Cool, thank you, appreciate it. Just to be clear, so we'll bring the standards up to the 90 and then bring the engineering and we're clear to move on to building department?
Once you have those plans updated, then
Okay.
send them over to me electronically,
Okay.
and then we just need 3 copies to stamp and sign. And then,
Benchmarks?
yes.
Cool. All right, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Dana, if he were to wish to pursue the variance could be, we wouldn't have to come back here with the variance, right?
No.
He could just do that and move forward. So if you do pursue the variance on that south
My
side.
question will be the process behind that, time-wise, because we're running out of time with.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get you.
So we were hoping to be
You've got
already in
people ready to
engineering.
go. It's not-
Yeah, I got
the
people signed, I got
variance
things
can
paid for, so we're ready to roll. I was ready to
Okay.
roll.
So-
But what would be the process? I mean, I'm not opposed to it, but talking like a lengthy process or?
The same one that you went through previously for the landscaping variance?
That'll
Yeah,
hold
so a
us up
couple
month,
month lead
so.
time.
That'll-
Yeah.
We can't afford a
That'll
month, so yeah.
hurt you.
We're trying to be, we're hoping to be up and running by September, mid-November, so.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks, guys.
It's faster to comply.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we can move on to, it ends old, or new business, we can move to old business, item A, the 32-mile technical campus request to withdraw, which was received on May 19th, 2026, for the rezoning request from A1 to IRT, parcels 240401, 100-009, 200-043, and 200-044. So that the petitioner looking to withdraw his request, entertain a motion.
Okay. Motion to accept the rezoning withdrawal request received from the applicant for the 32 Mile Road Technical Campus for A1 Agricultural Residential to IRT Industrial Research Technology for parcels 24-04-01-100-009, 24-04-01, 200-043, and 44, and industrial to IRT for parcel 24-04-01-100-008.
I'll second.
Roll call, Dana.
You can do all in favor.
All in favor?
Aye. Let them go away.
Motion passes. Yes, please.
Chair, could you just specify for the audience what that means?
So that means that request that was submitted, I believe, back in December last year for the rezoning of that property that we've been discussing for a good 6 months now, has now officially been withdrawn. And now we can, obviously, as the next item on the agenda is to keep working on that ordinance and try to get this right, so, for future development.
All righty.
And we'll move forward with item 8B, the zoning ordinance, text amendments, the draft ordinance, continued discussion related to regulation of data centers and large-scale industrial uses. So I'll turn that right over to Kayla, as she has been kind of pulling this all together for us and doing a fine job. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thanks, Commission. And maybe we'll just start with addressing the elephant in the room. In case there's anyone that's not aware, today it became public knowledge that the applicant, again, for that rezoning request, not only withdrew the rezoning request, but has notified the township verbally that they have withdrawn all interest in the site. There's no longer any purchase agreements under contract. As far as we know, that applicant is stepping away. At this time, we do want to keep working on the ordinance because we know that there are others that could come back to this area, and we want to make sure that we have in place the tightest regulations we can to protect you all as the public and the township. So that's where we're at today. And you know, if you have further questions about that piece, I would encourage you to reach out to your Board of Trustee members. Today, we're going to focus the conversation on the ordinance itself. So with that out there, Planning Commission.
Yeah, and I don't know if all that are present tonight know as well, the Township Board of Trustees did place a moratorium on those for, I believe, 6 months.
6
right,
months.
John? So that's something for that, and that helps us. Let's take our time. Let's do this right. Get the right people in the room. We have another expert here today to help us form this thing. We had our noise expert last month, or 2 months ago now. And it just, I think we're heading in a good direction, and we want to keep doing that.
Okay. Then the way that we're going to handle this agenda item, I'm going to briefly overview the memo, so the things that have changed to the draft ordinance since we last discussed. And then your engineering consultant, Mr. Kozak, is going to share some amendments that were drafted to the land utility ordinance. We're going to introduce Michael O'Brien, who's here with us. The board hired him to be the kind of fire emergency response, energy, and battery energy storage system expert. And then following that, there will be Planning Commission discussion, and at that point, we'll open it up to the audience to be able to provide comment on the drafted ordinance. So a lot to tackle, but so hopefully everyone's on the same page now. So again, lengthy memo, Commission, thank you for doing the research and sticking with us through this. A few items I wanted to address. One, we have retained Michael. Again, we'll introduce him after a summary of what's changed in the draft ordinance. We incorporated additional sound ordinance feedback from Darren Brown with K&S Engineers, who you met at the last meeting. And we also developed scope for a township sound study. So I believe that has been signed and will be completed this summer. I may be a little early on that, but we're good. Okay. So he's actually going to study 4 locations within the township to be able to provide some baseline sound data so that we can have really accurate thresholds in that noise ordinance for our maximum levels of both the A-weighted and C-weighted. We reviewed and proposed amendments to section 7.11, violations and penalties. Thank you to your legal counsel for that. And that moves us to the strictest zoning ordinance enforcement measures that communities can adopt. So that is now in place. Researched and drafted standards related to generator testing for data centers and large-scale industrial uses. So that deals with the frequency of when generators are running. It refers back to the noise ordinance standards, which would apply even to generators, and also deals with air quality issues, so requiring the EPA Tier 4 emission standards being met. We researched and drafted standards for maximum water consumption for non-residential uses. We did have that in the ordinance prior, but you'll notice that that was changed, and Mike will talk about this more, to reflect the water consumption actually based on the square footage of buildings on the site. And that was because some of our industrial users per square foot actually consume less water than restaurants do. Restaurants, hospitals are usually some of the highest consumers of water from a land use basis. But when you're talking about scale of a site, obviously they're a much smaller footprint. And so you don't feel that demand or impact as heavily as you would with large-scale industrial and data centers. So we did kind of a reverse scale that, again, we'll talk about a little bit later on. Then we researched and drafted standards to address potential ambient temperature impacts. Heat island effect is another term for that, of data centers and large-scale industrial uses. We introduced some cool roof standards to that effect, applying to all non-residential uses above 60,000 square feet in building square footage. And then also looked at the impervious surface standards for the industrial and the IRT zoning districts. We researched and drafted amendments to the township's land and utility ordinance, which I'll let Mike talk about, and then researched the standards of other review agencies. So we wanted to make sure that we noted that and included that in your packet. In addition to the township, if an application did come forward in the future, there are several other permitting agencies that the application would have to go through. And so that hits on a lot of the areas of regulation that have been concerns for the township and the public, especially some of the environmental permitting across air, water, land, waste, wetlands. Mike has been working diligently with the Great Lakes Water Authority to figure out how they regulate industrial wastewater. And so he provided some information on that pre-treatment program and is also looking to see how we can boost the township ordinances to cover any of those gaps that are there. And then there are the typical culprits, right? Macomb County Department of Roads, Macomb County Drain Commissioner, which has to do with the soil and erosion control, and the whole list that's available in that memo and also available to the public to review. There are links embedded in there, so I encourage you to kind of explore those links and research on your own related to those things. And the only thing I wanted to add is that, again, not a change in the ordinance, but at this point, the Planning Commission has not discussed where in the township these are appropriate. Right now, we're focusing on the performance standards specifically, and what use standards would apply to data centers and large-scale industrial uses. We have not even begun to talk about which zoning districts. I don't think we're ready to have that conversation tonight because we want to make sure that we get these other things nailed down first, and then talk about, you know, which areas or districts of the site of the community are most appropriate. I know that was a lot. Any questions on that?
No, your analysis, recommendations, and it's perfect. You've addressed everything we've talked about, and I appreciate all the work you put into this. Anything further, Mike, that you'd like to add, or?
Yeah, I'll just give a kind of a brief overview on what's included in your packet. So as Kayla indicated, as we've been working through this, there's numerous items that probably are not appropriate to be in the zoning ordinance that are more related directly to utilities and how we govern water and sewer use in the township. So the changes to those ordinances can happen on a parallel path, but we will certainly take input from the Planning Commission, but these don't have to require approval from the Planning Commission. The Land Development and Utility Ordinance, as we spoke earlier, is a regulatory ordinance. It's governed by the Township Board directly. It's a perfect opportunity because we have some other cleanup things that we want to do, but that ordinance basically has kind of two major parts. There's very specific regulatory issues about, you know, how do you get a water meter installed? How you're going to be billed? How much do you pay from a fee standpoint on if you're connecting a single-family house to the system? And then as an appendix to that ordinance, there's our engineering design standards that relate to all the reviews that we do of private development sites, of how big does the water main need to be, does it get looped, pavement sections, all of the kind of standard engineering stuff. There's some changes to those that we want to make that are completely unrelated to this operation, but while we're updating it with the board, we're gonna catch up some of those cleanup items that have come up from a regulatory standpoint. But as we look at the overall land development utility ordinance, there are 3 draft sections that are included in the packet. The first, the simplest, is as Kayla indicated, adding limits to water consumption, and by the very nature of water consumption, sewer discharge that can be come from a site based on the square footage. And as we said, as the square footage gets larger, the amount of water per 1,000 square feet gets lower. So that dovetails exactly with what we proposed last time, which was a limit of 115 gallons per 1,000 square feet when you're over that 60,000 foot threshold. But we added in those lower categories that would cover restaurants, as she indicated. The one thing that I don't think I caught, and we got to figure out where we put it, would just be related to exemptions for hospitals, medical facilities, life safety. I think we do want to get that in there. So we can add a sentence or two there. The other one is an update to the wastewater disposal facilities section. That primarily is related to prohibiting, adding in language that prohibits the discharge of any cooling water treatment chemicals into that sewer system. So that then takes you into the process of the industrial pretreatment plan. That's where GLWA gets involved. If we were having this conversation 7 years ago, it would be very simple because we could say every single time a toilet flushes or someone puts something down a drain in this township, it goes into the sewer system and then goes to the county system and then goes to GLWA and then gets treated down in Detroit. That's no longer the case now that you own and operate a wastewater treatment plant for some small section of the township. That small section happens to be maybe where these one of the large uses may come because there is some IRT in that area. So we kind of have parallel paths, but it will operate the same way. If a large industrial user, a data center user, something like that comes in, they're going to be required to get a permit for how they treat their water. It's different than just having, the trigger for that is they are not just going to be residential wastewater, which is what we would get from commercial operations, but, restaurants and businesses, office businesses, as well as normal multifamily and single-family houses. So that ordinance that's in place mirrors what GLWA has in place, but we have added some additional requirements in there, additional chemicals that limits that need to be included. I think we'll work with the fire safety expert to beef that up a little bit as it relates to chemicals related to fire treatment. Not just water. If there's other chemicals that are used in operations like this, we want to figure out, okay, what happens after that fire? Is that self-contained, or if any of that gets into the drain, how do we make sure that it is then contained and taken off site? So that's been added in there as well. But basically they'd be granted a permit that is site-specific, that has requirements of how often they need to test, has requirements of what they can and can't discharge, how they're going to actually treat it. Those ordinances are already in place. We just don't happen to have any significant industrial users in the township, so we haven't gone through that process. The GLWA does all the time throughout the 4 million residents and businesses, 4 million people that they serve in this area. So that's all contained there. Certainly a draft, not fully vetted out yet, but a really good start to update what you guys already had in place.
Great.
Mike, could you just specify, so you said there's testing that usually gets built into that. Who do those tests get turned into when?
It would be whoever the publicly owned treatment works is. So, and again, that's where it's going to be a little unique, that if this is a project that just goes to the township, we'll certainly lean on the standards that are in place and use plans that have already been created to mirror that with what the township would have, but the township would be that regulatory agency. If it is a sewer that's tributary to GLWA, it would be both the township and GLWA that would be regulating that and getting copies of those tests and responsible for the enforcement.
And then, the last thing I wanted to add is just that we recognize there are still gaps in ordinance that's in front of you today. So we're not planning on leaving those unaddressed. What's coming next is decommissioning standards, which we think will be incorporated somewhere in the site plan review approval process, requiring those decommissioning plans. Off-street parking and loading, we need to look at what that looks like for some of these large-scale uses that maybe don't have the same number of employees per square foot as you might think of with traditional manufacturing. We are addressing environmental provisions, and if you all remember, we had some drafted landscaping ordinances that came before you all prior to this application being submitted. So we will be taking a look at those again and making any tweaks as needed to make sure they're sufficient. And then with that, we'll be reviewing just all of our approval processes. So the special land use review requirements, planned unit development requirements, making sure that those are all really concrete and give the Planning Commission and Board of Trustees both the application requirements that they would need so that they can review full information, but also those review procedures that allow them to, place those restrictions on developments as needed to counteract any necessary negative impacts that may need to be mitigated.
And Kayla has it noted in her memo too, and I don't think you mentioned it, the construction impact section.
Oh, yeah.
Just that's another one that might hit both the zoning ordinance as well as this land development utility ordinance, because that governs
Right in the
kind of how that
yeah.
construction process actually is to occur and how it's enforced. So we may have to double dip a little bit there as well and make sure we have it covered on both fronts.
Yeah, I think right now those standards we found in the keeping the peace ordinance, so
Right.
talking about whether it stays there
Right.
or moves elsewhere, yeah.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate it. Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, good job. Hopefully.
I guess we could dive into what we have before us with the red line, the new red line version, the updated version.
Chair, I'm sorry, do you want to introduce Michael first?
Oh, sure, yes. Let's do that. I apologize. Got ahead of myself. I'm sorry, this is, if you introduce yourself.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Michael, I don't.
Yeah, thank you, Commission. No worries. You have a lot in front of you. My name is Michael O'Brien. I'm the managing partner of a group called Code Concepts Group. We do, and my previous company, Code Savvy Consultants, we actually did some work for the township back probably 25 years ago in third-party plan review. So we have been involved in codes and standards for over 30 years. We help write codes and standards that become the Michigan Building Code, the International Fire Code, things like NFPA 855. My partner and I and many that work for our firm are involved in the codes and standards, both from the topics you're going to hear about with stored energy or in data centers, that we are on the regulatory side typically in creating the safety standards. So first I want to say thank you to Kayla and Chris for bringing us on board. You have a really good proposal. We have been all across the country helping communities navigate stored energy projects, ESS, in data centers. We have worked on Tesla's battery facilities, Panasonic's battery facilities, and even here in Michigan, the Marshall plant, in helping communities navigate the codes and standards around these topics. And so I am more than happy to dive into some quick recommendations. I know forthcoming, we will be working with Kayla here very quickly to get you some of the updated fire safety provisions that we would recommend, so we can have the most state-of-the-art items included in your ordinance. So real quickly, some of the things that we're seeing with data centers, and I think that what I really like about your proposal over others, how we define data centers is very similar to how we define batteries. Your cell phone has a battery. That is a very small battery, just like a hearing aid has a battery. Well, I can compare it to an EV, which has a much larger battery pack, which is a series, into what we can see in containerized units, which are the standard today. Data centers, we have worked on data centers that are smaller than this room. We have worked on data centers that are the size of a Conex container, hooked to a grid or not hooked to a grid. And then we've worked on 3 and 4 million square feet. They're all called data centers in some way, shape, or form, and how codes and standards deal with them really depends on what happens inside the package or inside the box. The speed at which the chips process and the speed at which the user wants to use them truly put pressure on our fire and building codes and the electric code. The rate at which technology is advancing in this arena is something most of us in this have never seen before. There are many of our partners that we rely on. So you rely on the International Code Council to publish a fire code that's progressive. Just like you refer to NFPA, National Fire Protection Association, you require that. Well, folks like Underwriters Laboratories are holding almost monthly workshops in which they are working on specific aspects of how data centers' batteries are to be put together. Things like how our cabling inside of a building should work. In some cases, we're not used to buildings being powered with all DC power. There's a difference between AC and DC and how we set up sites that stretch our codes and standards. And so we rely on partners like Underwriters Laboratory to be helping us design. You know UL by that stamp on your light bulb. You know UL from that safety it provides. And so us as a user group are continuing to put pressure on that group to develop standards as fast as they can. I've been involved in codes and standards for a long time, and never have I heard end users say, we need codes and standards to move faster. Codes and standards are updated on a 3-year basis typically. And in this case, the data community needs it to go faster. And the process in which that happens just doesn't go. So right now, the most currently adopted code you can adopt is something called the 2024 International Fire Code. It's the second series where we started to address energy storage. So you might have heard over time that energy storage is a new topic. Energy storage was introduced into the fire code in about 2018. It was revised in 21 and now has become really robust in the 2024. By the time we're probably done here, by the end of this year, we will have the 2027 codes available. And it's really from a community standpoint of how fast can we adopt those so that your building code official, your fire code official, the designers who design these buildings are meeting those most recent. And there's certain balance we have to do. We have a state building code that regulates how a building is going to be built. Right now, that's the 2021 building code. There are provisions in the state building code to say when our codes and standards don't cover a topic, the code official, the building official, the fire code official can use more recently current published standards. Just like the design professional, the architect, the engineer can recommend following current standards. So when we look at your ordinance, there's a couple things that we're going to make sure. We want to align your definitions to what our codes and standards are. We don't want to have issues. So there's a couple items that we'll point out, we'll give to Kayla. The easy one is energy storage. We want to make sure that energy storage matches, because energy storage will be different based on how the end user wants to use it inside that building. So in many cases, a lot of our communities don't like large generator sets. So one of the first data centers I went to was probably about 20 years ago. It was a big check processing place. There was 27 diesel generators inside the building with exhaust on the outside. When they were running, you really couldn't hear them, but these were the size of large Conex containers, 53-foot semis with very large motors in them. And they're in triplicate, right? So if one sets down for maintenance, we have one prime, one backup. And our original thing was, how are we going to deal with the fuel? And there's a lot of safeguards that are in place in how we store fuel. If you've been to a modern hospital today, they probably have 3 diesel generators for a 4-story building and a backup fuel supply. Those are very robust standards that we're very used to. Now, with data centers, what really has become the highlight is the noise and how it regulates. Not our expertise, but in codes and standards, we do regulate that. So as communities have shied away from generators to provide the secondary power, there's been a larger increase in stored energy. Now, stored energy has been a big topic, and it comes in a lot of different sizes and shapes. But typically today, it's in what you would call a Conex container. The business calls it an enclosure. Can't be over a 53-foot semi if that tells you a size. That's the max limitations in our codes and standards. It might be the most tested product we have in the built environment today. There's a lot of products that go under testing. But because of what some of the things that happened in about 2017, 2018, that industry got heavily regulated from very much a viewpoint of the fire service. So the fire service put a lot of pressure on the code-making bodies to make sure that certain safeguards were taking place. When we look at buildings, building the box that holds data and holds energy system or holds data systems, not much changes. We have a lot more ventilation, we have a lot more cooling, and we have a lot different power. But the box, the steel, and how it is, our codes and standards cover. When we leave and go to the stored energy, we need to make sure your ordinance covers the different packages they may present it in. So today, the township has adopted what's called the 2021 fire code. That's your fire code. It has some limited items within that fire code. It matches the Michigan building code in many ways, shapes, and form. Inside the box, inside the data center, and we're going to say something typically 100,000 square feet and up, there are batteries inside the building, and there are typically ESS outside the building. Inside the building, the racks, we're seeing a major change in how those racks come and go. Probably in this building somewhere is a server room. It might go to the cloud, but there's a firewall. It sits about 8 foot tall, and the bottom is probably some form of battery. It's probably a lead acid or a NiCad, a chemistry, a different chemistry than really what's coming forward today. We've seen those chemistries for a long time, very robust, high safety factors. It's not providing the power that's needed for that continuity inside the built environment. And so there's a lot of safeguards that have to be in place. And so one of the changes that we're going to recommend is that the 2024 fire code has to really be in place, because there's one aspect that happens is these battery units, maybe they're not holding capacity, which is usually it. They just swap it out for a new one. So there's a room holding these batteries. The first time we talk about rooms holding batteries is really in the 24 fire code. And so we need to make sure the code officials have those, the applicant understands the provisions, and the safeguards are there. As it relates really to the exterior, it's how do we match really the industry standard, which is meeting the fire code as well as something called NFPA 855. There's a couple nuances that we really like to see in local ordinances. There's about 12 items, and so there will need to be a coordination in that submittal to what the expectation here is. And so really it's what's required for the site plan for everybody to be comfortable with the site plan process for planning, and then what detail is needed in construction. So when we're dealing with batteries, this is a different I don't want to call it a conflict, but it gets clunky. And what I mean by it gets clunky, if I'm going to build a stored energy facility, so we're seeing it across Michigan, we're seeing it across North America, just batteries and boxes to support the grid. That project might take us 2 years, 3 years. Everybody here has a computer. Not many of us buy a computer today, but we're not going to use it for 3 years because the technology drastically changes. So the technology in batteries is drastically changing in a sense of capacity, safeguards, testing, and models. And so when they start to expand these batteries, from time to time, it's just shown as a box for the Planning Commission. But we want details because you want to be able to evaluate sound. You want to be able to evaluate spacing. And from time to time, they haven't dictated the manufacturer yet. So there's assumptions made. And so we want to make sure that you get enough information, that your consultants have enough information, and that the applicant understands what they need to submit so that they can make sure all of those are there. So we'll provide some draft language to Kayla and how to address that. Because some of the things that we need for the construction permits are going to be some of the same things you're asking for, but our codes and standards might need additional details. So codes and standards have 12 things for batteries that you have to submit, and that's a site plan, it's a layout, it's wiring methods, it's all of those, and then you're going to hear some of these same things. Commissioning. How do those products come on site? Because how they're staged on site, if I was going to build a 2-story wood frame office building here, I'm pretty sure your fire chief's going to put in a plan review letter that I can't start putting wood up until hydrants are turned on and active. It's probably a statement they're going to put, because that's in the fire code. Likewise, we have to have that conversation of when batteries start to arrive, what safeguards need to be on site? How will they be stored? What's the training that's in place for the fire department? And so in 1207 of the fire code, we have this very detailed list. And the one that always comes up is the decommissioning plan. And the decommissioning plan from the fire code in NFPA 855 has a lot of specific requirements. There is a high likelihood, the incidents involving batteries are very widespread, just like they are in our homes, just like there are in commercial buildings. Meyer down the street is more likely to have a fire alarm than it is a building fire. Same goes for stored energy. We're going to see that same thing where it has a very robust fire alarm system inside of it. How we respond to it, how the applicant or the owner, we need to make sure that's all defined. I don't know, we just need to make sure we balance what we have that will be in a construction permit versus what you all expect. And I'll probably give a couple pass and we can help talk this through, because I want to make sure that you get the ordinance that both the community expects and that you all need. And so that decommissioning plan is really the one that we need to make sure we're defined on the definitions. Because decommissioning in our codes and standards for the operating permit are different. So if we have a module that is not performing, it's got cells that have gone bad. A module is a series of cells inside these containers. When the battery management system picks up that that's not working right, they literally will bring technicians, they slide it out, they put a new one in, they commission it, they bring it back onto pace, and it goes away. So that decommissioning plan needs to handle that smallest unit all the way to a fire incident. That's what our codes and standards. Now from here, when we say decommissioning, and we haven't talked, but I'm just going to assume it means how do we return the site back to what it was? And so we just need to make sure, because those definitions, there is a codes and standards submittal definition for it. Likewise, you all have expectations of what that will be. And so we're going to draft those items. We're going to try our best to give that path and have some good dialogue with staff so that you all get the submittals if projects go forward. We want them to meet the safety. They're going to, every project we've ever been, the applicant has stood at a podium like this and said they're going to meet these minimum safeguards. And we see them as minimum safeguards, and we just have been through a bunch of hurdles over the years. And we want to make the process as smooth as possible by giving clear expectations of what will be needed through the process. Because really we want you to be able to make the best educated decision with something that can seem very complicated. But know that there's a lot of people that are always here to support. This is what we do because there are homes with stored energy products in this community. The average home has 77 lithium-ion batteries in it. Now, if I change it and say you have 77 rechargeable devices, that probably changes your perspective. So we know homes are getting stored energy. Same cells, same type of system, just a lot less energy. And so how do we take those lessons learned and apply them when we get these larger scale? And it could be a small unit. It could be, if it's only the size of a Connex container, which is what we're starting to see more and more requests, or small modular data centers, a little bit different. And so I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm going to stop talking because you all have a long night of debate, but I'm happy to answer any questions. But we will be providing Kayla as much stuff as we can, and I think it'll be ready for you for your next meeting.
I appreciate your comment. I'm geeking out on this. This is my language. I'm a building official for another community, so everything you're saying, it's stuff I've thought of, and it's just, you're taking it to that next level. I love the idea of adopting the 24. Trying to get my own community to do that. The fire official is working on that as well, just for that reason. The battery storage is huge, and it's something that needs to be done. We are under you guys did adopt the 21 separately? Yes. Because you do have to do that outside of the state regulating the Public Act 230 mandating that we basically go under the 21 code, which is still 3 years behind, almost 6. So residential is a whole nother story. But either way, I appreciate you coming tonight, and you can clearly see you have a wealth of knowledge that'll be useful for this, and look forward to see what we can put on paper.
Well put. Got 100, but he's going to answer them all to Kayla later on.
Yeah, I figure I would give him time to work with Kayla to put that stuff in writing and see what we have before we start diving into it.
One thing that I did want to get a little clarification on, just for me, it'll take up a little time. When you talk about these BESS systems, and I come from the old school, I just recycled an old battery backup system. It was 6 motorcycle batteries in a plastic case that used to keep our servers running.
Yeah.
My understanding is that as you scale these up, that you get some challenges. There's sort of a phase change in there where these larger systems, when you get to these big data centers, offer a lot larger challenges. And I'm just wondering, as you scale this from containerized or data center pods up to these large facilities, just give me a thumbnail of what are the challenge changes as we go along.
Yeah, we're seeing definitely, we're seeing volume of containers. So I think most manufacturers do not like large building-based batteries. The building and fire codes still allow you to build a 60,000 square foot building filled with batteries. The industry has said this is a terrible idea. And so you're seeing just more and more containerized. I would say that probably on, I can picture at least 5 of the data centers that we're maybe providing consultation on right now with communities. We're seeing anywhere between 200 and 500 containers on the exterior of the building. And so how those units are separated really come from their codes and standards and something called a large-scale fire test. It's probably one of the few things, that has really changed is we have said that in order for us to provide the spacing between the units, instead of us just giving a number, prove it in science. And so they actually have to do something called a large-scale fire test in which they can handle it. Now, we know most of the products today are lithium ion, and if you're paying attention to the news, you're seeing things with sodium ion. Peak Energy and GM just launched a big initiative. So some of the things that we're seeing is changes in chemistries, and so our codes and standards cover that. And that should be a dialogue that happens at a planning commission to start first is, hey, what technology are you planning on using? And most of them are saying lithium ion, containerized systems, and this is how we want to do it. So it's really the volume that comes in. And so, through the plan review process, they've got to, or the manufacturer, the OEM, just like you buy a Ford, a GM, and it's a vehicle with stored energy, there's a dozen or more manufacturers, and so they will buy from a manufacturer who will put those in. And so when you look at all of those containers, it is a very regulated system, both in their design and how the batteries operate, so the performance of the battery management, the performance of what's called thermal management, as well as how it handles when there's an event. From a singular cell failure, it has to pass tests that it won't spread, and that it won't, if it, for some reason the safety systems fail, that it won't spread to an adjacent container. And so the worst case is we're going to lose one container and it hasn't spread. And so there's a lot of things that have to happen in there, especially as we push energy density up. As time progresses, we're seeing more and more energy per what I would call square foot. And so the amount of energy that's going in a container is increasing, and the safety standards are still holding them to that. And so it's been production has been very furious and fast in this product. Many of the manufacturers are saying they're sold out for 26. And so people all over, from DTE consumers to PG&E out in California, are trying to buy these units. And so we're seeing that now. The data centers have a latency issue where speed matters when there's a loss of prime power. And so we're seeing different ways of wiring methods where all energy can run through the ESS, and they might call it a power control unit or some other name. It's still a BESS by definition, but we're seeing different pushes in this so we don't get that blip of power outage on the units. And so the industry is, the data industry is pushing the battery industry because it's not switching fast enough. And when I say fast enough, it's in like tenths of seconds that they need it to be faster. So that's really where we're seeing it. We're seeing a lot of improvements in cell chemistry, cell design, and the failure rate is becoming very, very low with items that we're going to make sure are in your ordinance. So the newest code, the listing standards, the large-scale fire test are really is what's setting these up for success.
Okay. Perfect. That's what I wanted. Thank you. Did have one follow-up, though. With the newer systems being decentralized, since they're moving the batteries out of the building and into these containerized systems, is it changing the footprint of the system? With that, being decentralized, I would think it would take more space, but if energy density is increasing as technology improves, are we seeing a real change in the amount of square feet we need to generate the same amount of wattage, or is it going to be taking up more area or less area for the future?
I will say, I think in some ways it's taking up more because people are shying away from the generators. I think there's a lot of requests to not have generators for the backup, which is pushing more batteries on the outside. I think you're going to see it's a mix. It's going to be a mix of batteries on the outside and batteries on the inside. So some of the early data centers would have taken all these batteries that are on the outside, and they would have put them in a room separated by a 2-hour firewall inside the building. And they're shying away from that and saying, look, that latency issue that we're not getting, the individual rack will have a battery mounted at the bottom. That battery will take care of our latency, that now issue. All power runs through that, but then outside is the same. But we're seeing some, we're in the process of writing I got to think of the year, the 2029 NFP 855. That's the standard for the next one. And a lot of the committees are being pressed from the industry on double stacking units, vertically turning up units and changing the configuration. I would say the industry's trying to push those parameters. And the real question is, that's something that I think has to be defined here as it goes through. But we're seeing smaller units. I'm going to tell you, like the LG model is significantly smaller than some of its comparables at a same size energy density. So we're seeing some shrink, but we're seeing there's a lot of desire to be more creative by going higher and then shrinking the footprint.
Right. I appreciate that. Look forward to seeing what you bring to us.
Very good.
And if you guys do have questions in the meantime, please feel free to send them to Dana or myself, and we can channel them to the appropriate expert, so we have a whole consultant team going at this point. But I wanted to let you know, too, that Chief Tyrell actually connected us with Michael O'Brien, so we really appreciate that. He has questions that are being addressed on Fire's End as well.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's you've got a great group working that you fired. I've heard the name for years. I've been in the inspection industry for 23 years, and your name's been out there for all of that. So I appreciate you being here and part of the team getting this together. So I guess would now be the appropriate time to dive into this, I guess? Okay, thank you.
We're there?
I think so, yeah. I mean, going through it, I do a lot of the stuff that, I had a couple things I would like to start with, and it's all little things. Just under, on page 2, small scale data center, large scale data center, it talks about a total building footprint of 60,000 or more. I would like that to be defined as combined within a development. I don't want to see a bunch of 60,000 square foot buildings separated by minimum separations and just piling on so they can get to their million square feet they're trying to get to.
Yep. That's the intent when it says total building.
Okay, I
Yep.
wanted to make sure it's clarified to that.
Okay.
I just, when I read that, I see total building footprint, and as a building guy, I'm like, oh, one building's 60,000 square foot, I'm good. I just want to make sure they're clear on that. Because you know how developers are, they will come in here and they will push that envelope. Page 5, generators, define temporary outage, temporary to an out. Is this temporary only for outages? Is it temporary because their systems are failing? You know, somehow I'd like that defined so they just, a temporary might be that DTE hasn't supplied power to the building yet, but they're coming in 6 months. I just don't want a bunch of generators. I know we have other provisions in there, but I want to make sure it's, somehow we define what that temporary outage is.
Are you on, subsection
generators.
C or D?
Generators D.
Okay.
Limited to temporary backup and emergency use only.
Okay.
So I just,
Yeah, we can clarify that. I just do want to note subsection C above it specifically says that they must be connected to a permanent power source with adequate capacity and cannot operate on temporary power.
yeah, I mean, whether it be, you know, a storm or something like that, fine, we understand, but I just want to make sure temporary doesn't become something that lasts too long. 8 to 8, running generator testing 8 to 8 p.m. I'm still getting past people getting home for dinner. I had like a 9 to 5 myself, but I don't know if that's under section 2, routine generator testing, below in subset D. Is that possible to move that to like a 9 to 5? I mean, a business day when most people are working, so if they are running generators, just 8 to 8, you know. If I want to sit on my back deck and enjoy dinner, I don't want to be listening to a generator system for that large of a facility.
Is that time period good with the commission if we make that change?
I think that's realistic.
I think that.
Make it 5:15.
Hey, whatever. Yeah, whatever John wants.
Yeah.
In the heat island, 521, This one, and I know with the cool roof standards are one thing, but with the amount of ventilation they put on these roofs, you can do the cool roofs, this best amount of cool roof build out you can do, but you're pushing all that hot air out above it, and you're still, I worry that with the amount of ventilation these facilities would have, you'd still have a situation where you could create that heat island. And with our agricultural hopes to keep, in our master plan, we really push the agriculture in our community and our orchards, and that is critical. I mean, we've heard Abby here at the last meeting, and I'm sure that Big Reds would voice the same concerns, is that we can't see that ground temperature rising in any capacity near these facilities. Otherwise, those trees wake up too early, and then they die at the first frost. So it just, I don't want to see any, I don't know if it's something that needs to be looked at. I don't know if there's something we can do that's more intense, perimeter insulations. I don't know what we can do to accommodate our crops around the area. And then again, applicability, this total structures, combined total, that's in the applicability of that heat island. Again, it talks about the total 60,000 square foot structure. More of the, just spelling that out about the 60,000 square feet is for the development.
And we are continuing to research on heat mitigation.
Yeah, and you see a lot of these facilities too with the solar and stuff like that. Well, how much is the your solar is absorbing it, but it also, you're going to get the reflection, and how much of that cool roof is going to be covered by solar panels and would kind of defeat the purpose. So according to AI, it does say it affects it. Just throwing that out there. But either way, that's kind of what I had. Anybody else like to add to?
Yeah, I had a few that I wanted to go through. But we can go back up to the page 2 where it talks about accessory data centers. I know that a lot of the smaller data centers now, along with the battery systems he's talking about, you can get these containerized data centers and drop them on site where existing buildings are. So do we need to have some language in here that talks about, data centers, these accessory data centers that are ancillary to the building itself rather than contained within?
That is completely up to the commission. Right now, the way it's defined, they would have to be located within the same building. If you want to change that to allow some of these like compartment structures,
I would prefer not to, but if we're going to, is it going to be an open question? Do we need to address that at all? We don't allow external data centers, or I'd rather we had something specific, language either prohibiting or allowing, but it doesn't need to be addressed right now. So I'm good if we keep them inside the buildings.
Currently, it says they have to be within for an accessory.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fairly restrictive. And it's doable in most cases. If they wanted to go outside of that, it would be.
I'm good.
I'm good with keeping it as is.
Yeah, agreed. As long as it prevents them from dropping in an outdoor container with a data center.
Yeah, what would happen, right, is if it moves to the point where it's outside of the building, at that point it's regulated as a small scale data center, and there's more strict restrictions on that.
Okay. And then my next question was on the definitions of the small and large scale data center, because you've got specific language in here about the energy production. The last line of each one, either with or without. What if you get the converse? What if you have a small data center with energy production that's on site? It's not quite 60,000 feet. How do we, or conversely, you get one a little over 60,000 that doesn't do energy generation. How do we classify that?
So if it hits any of those triggers of the large-scale data center, the intent is that it's regulated as the large scale.
So if they start power generation regardless of size, we're going to look at them as a large-scale usage.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way it's written today. And again, any of these can be changed at this stage.
Okay. And then I did notice we had just a small change in the percentage of lot coverage from industrial to IRT, from 80 to 70. I was looking at that. Are we looking at, I'm just trying to understand the justification behind that, why it makes sense.
Yeah, so we recognized, again, if our goal is to cut down on some of that heat island effect, which, there's heat generated from data centers as a use, but there's also heat that's just generated from large-scale development. And so we recognized if we were implementing cool roof standards to address some of that heat island, we also needed to look at impervious surface on the site. And so that was the justification for going back and looking specifically in our IRT and IND zoning districts where we may get larger scale developments of that nature. The intent with the percentages, I think industrial was already defined at a certain level, and so we brought that down a little bit. IRT actually didn't have a specific percentage of max impervious surface defined, and based on conversations that the Planning Commission has had, it looked like the intent was for the IRT to be lower on that impervious surface scale, if that makes sense. The IRT having a little bit more open space than the industrial district.
It does.
And again, those numbers can be changed, but wanted to make sure that we were addressing that at the same time as we're addressing the roof standards.
Works for me.
No, I like it.
Yeah, it's a less intense use. It could be in a transitional area too, where you might have commercial or residential near, so a smaller footprint would be a reasonable transition. Sound levels, the sound level chart we have in here. We've got two standards that are denoted, the ANSI, 12.9 and 12.18. They're different ways of measuring the same things. My question was, since we've got them both in here, does one of those standards become the controlling standard if there's an issue? If we have somebody that wants to measure under one and we want to do measurement under the other, we end up with a conflict. We have to cite one of those as the controlling standard. Or if we leave it up to interpretation, do we end up in a technical or a legal fight over which standard is relevant?
That is a great question that I will refer to Darren.
Would be a good question for the sound expert, I guess.
So it just seemed like I don't want to have to fight that one.
Okay.
And then in the same section, just after the standard labels, it just says, they're applied, received the following standards as applicable. I know it's being picky, but who defines what's applicable? Is it us? Is it the ordinance? Do we need specific language as to when it's applicable, where, or?
Which subsection?
It's under A. It talks about the ANSI S12.9 and the ANSI 12.18 as applicable.
Oh, sorry, that's what I had highlighted just before.
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of, I'm guessing that those standards specifically deal with, and again, I'm just guessing, they probably deal with a specific type of sound.
I'm assuming, I just don't want to make any assumptions.
Totally guess, but I would assume that would be the case, and that's why they're both referenced. I doubt it's referenced because they're conflicting. I would say that they probably work on different areas. So as applicable would be depending on what area of the chart you're looking at.
Okay.
But we'll have to ask our sound expert on that to make sure that's in line, I would imagine. He's probably the one who worked on this chart, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
Or worked with you?
Yep. Yeah, so I can ask. I'm so sorry, John. I captured that one on the ANSI standards, ANSI. What was the first one that you highlighted where we had that applicable language? I thought you had two notes in the noise ordinance, unless I misunderstood.
No, it was just this, the difference between which standard is the controlling standard and then, the applicability determination, whether that's us, outside authority, local.
Okay. You're saying who's doing the measuring?
Well, who determines, it says they're applied as applicable. And it's just like, so who determines what's applicable?
Okay, yep, we'll follow up on that.
Just want to make sure.
Sorry, I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing.
No, I just want to make sure I understand it correctly too.
Yep.
And then down to section 521, heat island mitigation, section B, applicability. I read it, I get it. But the language on the third or fourth read through it, because it became very confusing. Because it's you're controlling through the negative statement, the non-residential, the non-commercial, citing the outburst. So it just, I read it a couple times and I became more confused as I was reading it, so I just want to make sure if there's a way to make sure that that's clear.
Yeah, I was, you know what, I had the note on that too, that under B, under applicability, number 2, existing non-commercial sites with 60,000 square feet or more, again, combined total, that was my, and I did say on there residential. Maybe we just put residential sites, I don't know if, how, I know what you're trying to get at, you gotta cover more than just.
I understood it when I read it, but it's confusing to read it.
Okay. Yes, we can change that. Okay.
And then, again, under that same Heat Island Section C, I know we've got a lot of things that, let's see, C2, it doesn't talk about roof areas containing equipment that's required by building code. So if you've got HVAC or air handling equipment, if they're required by code, we should probably exempt those too. Let's see. Under section 6.3, development impact statement, section 3-4, it's just the broad statement about us being able to waive conditions or waive requirements. I know we don't have, I looked for one, I couldn't find it, we might have. I didn't find any specific procedure for that on our end that's outlined. Do we need to define a procedure for waiving? And do we need to, let's say we need to come up with a specific finding of facts in order to do a waiver or something like that that puts some regulation on why we do a waiver and how we do it?
I think that'd be great.
It seems like other than
It's something you do at the planning commission anyway.
We do it for traffic reports.
We do it all the time, it's just I don't think we're
Yeah.
ever.
And usually there's a
traffic, it is a
justification given.
specific,
There's some
yeah,
language
but
there.
not
Yeah.
for other things.
Got it.
Yeah.
Seems like it's just something you do. You never question it.
Whenever you make a motion to waive something, I say,
Right.
you need to have a reason. And that's gotta be in the record.
You know what, I forgot one thing on 521, the heat island mitigation cool roof standards. It talks about the existing non-commercial sites with 60,000 square feet or more of gross floor area required to meet the standards of 521 in the following instances.
In that,
Are we gonna make existing buildings who do re-roofs comply as well? I mean, if they're re-roofing their structure, I mean, they were obviously built under a different code. I know currently with the existing building code, there's things that they do and they can be exempted from, but I mean, as long as there's not too much equipment, they're asking them to put more insulation in the existing roofs. Are we making them comply with the cool roof standards on existing structures when they re-roof structures, or let them put that back as it was?
the intent is that no, unless these specific criteria are met. And I apologize, in applicability there, that's a typo. It should be existing non-residential sites. The intent was that you're not requiring your existing businesses to come into compliance with this because it's a lot more expensive to retrofit a building
Absolutely.
than to build it from
That's
scratch.
why I had that question
Yeah.
there. I was like,
However, if they're building, like if they have a site that has multiple buildings, they're building a new building on that site, that building should
building will.
comply.
And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I just get it in, I know the what-ifs could be out there, but I mean, what if somebody, and I know the data center industry doesn't like to use old buildings. They seem to want to start afresh but if they were to occupy an old building that is over 60,000 and is, would it be possible to make them retrofit it? I mean, because of the amount of, I mean, obviously, if they're going over 60,000, they'll be coming back before this commission.
Yeah.
And there would be substantial work that would need to be done in the amount of heat that these buildings generate. I think it would be appropriate that we could have them retrofit to a cool roof standard on an existing building. So I don't know how that would translate legally.
It's a change of use.
It's a change of use, and
Which
obviously
drives a
it would
site
need a
plan and
special
full
land
site
use
plan.
at that point too.
And then we can
And then we
stipulate.
can stipulate. Okay, I just want to make sure we're going down the right path on that. Okay.
I had one more in the, where is this? your 6.3 development impact again, down on section 3, I think, where it talks about the gas and electric utility providers providing written confirmation that sufficient capacity exists. I don't like that language. I mean, I don't know how much we can force them to do, because that's sort of out of our hands with the utility providers, but I would like something stronger there. I mean, sufficient capacity to me seems kind of vague, and you know, the kind of language that I was looking at is they've got to get the documentation that, where the utility company says that they have the capability to provide the capacity. And then if they can identify the facilities that are going to serve the site, and to include any required system upgrades, extensions, easements, or other conditions of service that they're going to require in order to make that happen. That way, it doesn't, sufficient capacity just seems like, we're relying on them for a guess. And I'd like to get as much information from the utility companies as we can, so, we've got something to base a decision on, rather than they said it was okay. If we can get them to delineate a little more, and again, I don't know if we can make them do that, but I'd like to.
Okay. That's something we can look into to see how far we can push it. Right now, this is written more like a will serve letter, basically. Yes, we're not sure at this point how far we can push it, but we'll keep kind of prodding.
Keep pushing.
Yeah.
With that in mind too, Kayla, I don't know if it'd be appropriate, but under the circumstance we're dealing with right now, we get this letter today from Mr. Praviti regarding them saying that DTE could not provide the service in a timely fashion, even had they got all this approved. Is there a way we can say that we have that information up front? Hey, yes, DTE can provide this within our, what's our time limit on a site plan? A year, 2 years? 2 years, right? And then they can extend it.
Yeah.
So you're talking a couple years. I want to know that DTE can provide this energy for a building that's under construction in a timely fashion, to the point where we don't have a building sitting there vacant for 2 years waiting for DTE to finish the job. So I don't know if it can be worked out that timing needs to be spelled out by DTE ahead of time to say, hey, power will be provided by 2028. And now their construction timeframe might be 2028, but I want to know that those two numbers come together at the right time. Otherwise, you got a 2 million square foot building with nothing going on there and waiting for power. And that'd be, or they're begging you to run their generators, who knows? But, I know we've got that, but you know how it goes. Something to consider.
Yeah, no, I think we can look into it and tie
work on
it to the site plan.
Yeah.
Site plan timeline. I think that's a good idea.
I mean, you're requiring it. This language right here requires DTE to say, we've got the capacity and we're willing to provide it,
Right.
period.
I like it.
Whether or
Okay.
not they renege on that,
Well, you can only control what you can control.
Right.
So, that's that.
Do we have something to ensure compliance? I mean, I know there's violations in place, but like ongoing monitoring post-construction?
So for some things, there's ongoing monitoring. I think so water being one, the water consumption limits, if we put those in place, we would know how much water they're withdrawing, because we're requiring them to connect to a public system. So you'd have it for that, you'd have it for wastewater, because you're doing the annual testing. At this point, not for noise. We have not included that language, but the way our ordinance enforcement works is that when there's a complaint, you go out and do a violation
Is that
test.
just from a resident though, bringing to?
Yep, it's just complaint-based.
Okay.
So, those, are there other things specifically you're thinking of?
Just other ways to monitor aside from waiting for someone to go to the township and complain about it?
Yeah, so the noise is the only one that would be complaint-based. For some of those more serious things, it would be, ongoing testing. And I believe I don't want to speak beyond my expertise, but if there are other things that you think we should be looking at, we're happy to talk about that too.
Further discussion?
I just wanted to thank Mike for giving us 27 pages of water and sewer regulations.
Mostly boilerplate, I definitely didn't read.
That was so much fun to read through. I did want to ask, though, if we, since we have two separate systems, we have the municipal waste system and our treatment plant. So when we talk about the pre-treatment permits and plans, we would then have two distinct paths for that. You know, Great Lakes Water Authority would probably be the one that covers treatment or things discharging into the municipal system, and ours would be our own, or help me understand that better.
You would just have two agencies that both have kind of regulatory power over it and would both be granting that permit. In the case of somebody that's tributary to the treatment plant only, then it would just be the township being that agency. But the standard's going to be, we're mirroring, and before this discussion ever even happened, the township adopted essentially the same language that GLWA has, it was DWCD at the time, related to industrial pretreatment.
Now, would we need to have different standards because of the type of plant we have? I know it's a small facility, and
right.
You know, what we can handle with that plant. Would our standards necessarily need to be different than the boilerplate from GWLA?
There's just a few discharge items, primarily phosphorus, that concerns us because of our strict permit limits related to that. That, in all the research that we've done, that doesn't seem to be very much of a contributing issue with these centers, that all of a sudden there's a higher amount of phosphorus that's being discharged. So I don't think it would be anything drastically different. Like I said, they're going to really kind of follow each other.
Okay. And I looked through, yeah, and I know we've talked before about the usage requirements and you know, thereby the discharge. I wonder if you could just explain a little bit more for everybody how you came to those numbers. I'd like to get a refresher and let everybody know why we're looking at those amounts.
Those are generally tied to the REU standards, the residential equivalent unit standards that are already in place in the township's ordinance. So again, when we go back to that land development utility ordinance, there's a component of that is related to determining you come in with a certain use. The ordinance assumes, based on your square footage and your use, how much water you are going to use, quote unquote, and that is how you're charged for the capacity fee when you connect to the system, because the system has to be able to provide that to you. So we kind of worked those numbers backwards the other ways to put a limit. When we got into the higher values, we pulled that down a little bit, because if you take a standard warehousing use and you just use what the REU assumes, that's where the use is just based on square footage. Again, if you had 600, 700,000 square feet, it starts to become incredibly high numbers that, from a practical standpoint, realistically, those uses aren't going to actually even use that. So even charging those capacity fees can be difficult because it's tough to prove empirically. So yeah, we use the numbers that are already in place that will be used when someone's paying those fees, worked it backwards, but then made it stricter when you get into the larger sites like this.
Okay, great, thank you.
We did kind of test those assumptions that are already in place within township ordinance with actual water consumption data for various land uses
And they
throughout
lined
the
up
nation.
pretty darn
So, yes, it was exciting.
Good for you. It's great when you do it two different ways and you get the same number or close to it. It's great.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
verifiable. All right, thank you.
Oh, appreciate it, guys. Further discussion? You good? Any other points of emphasis? I think we can open it up to the public. If anybody would like to come to the podium to speak, please give us your name and address for the board. We got some frequent flyers here tonight. I noticed some faces from the past.
Frequent flyer.
Yes.
Paul Reno, I live in Bruce Township, and hopefully you guys don't have to see me anymore, because I really don't enjoy coming into a community that I don't vote or pay taxes in to tell them that they're going to affect my life. And thank you for the very comprehensive presentation, sir. It was very intelligent, and I think I'm going to give up my hopes and throw away my Blockbuster card based on your advice of technology. So, the one concern that I have is this gentleman brought up a very valid point. Listen, we're talking about the water consumption, and that is one of my concerns because I'm on a well. And so, if you're not going to monitor this place, what prevents them from hooking up to the water system, and then a year later they start dropping some wells, right? Because Romeo runs on their wells. They have a water tower that's how they service their entire community with water. So if you're not going to monitor them, and they're not a very reputable business or everything that we put in the ordinance is only a $500 fine, what's going to prevent them from violating the rules?
You know, and I know it's not a Q&A, but the one thing you have to understand is violators will be violators.
Well,
You can't control, you can only
I get
control
that.
what you can control. I mean, if people are going to move forward and violate the law, they're breaking the law, and then if we would have to catch them doing it.
Fair enough. What I'm saying, I guess my question is, and if it's not a Q&A, then I misunderstood, but is there something that prevents them from accessing groundwater?
So we did write in the ordinance, I can speak to this, sorry, Chair. The ordinance states they have to connect to the municipal water system, so they're
Okay.
not allowed to place wells. If they violate that, which again, we notice construction activity, there are folks that drive around, and that's part of the code enforcement work that the township does for any development. If we catch that, then it goes into that violation section. And just to clarify, that penalty is the $500, but it's per day of violation, and it allows us to take them to court. When we take them to court, it goes to, and actually, Chris, I should let you weigh in on this, because you can, yeah.
Hey, the attorney's going to talk to me. Cool.
It can go one of two ways. The township could write them a misdemeanor citation, which means it's criminal.
Okay.
And they'd have to go appear before Judge Andary. And somebody from the community, somebody from the company would have to be there.
Okay.
Secondly, if it's something with respect to the wells, most likely the township would file a circuit court action to stop them immediately.
Okay.
That would go to Macomb Circuit Court, and a circuit court judge would have the power to stop them immediately.
And also, the health department is heavily involved in our well systems in this
Okay.
county, and if they got wind of that as well, I'm sure they'd have something to say.
And
Well,
I know the
appreciate it.
buzzer's about to go, and I'll just add one more point. The township's DPW department, who handles all of the water and sewer billing, they closely monitor larger users for
Okay.
both spikes up and down, including households. And if they see someone that is all of a sudden using 4 times the amount they use, they actually have alerts set up that flash right to their screen and tell them. And they have found leaks in people's houses when they're in another state on vacation, or just a toilet leak that they didn't know about. Obviously, this would be if someone was using, let's say, 1 million gallons every 3 months, and all of a sudden they were using half of that, that would also flag something in their system to say, wait a second, what happened, what changed? Then questions start to get asked.
I'm sorry.
Reclaiming my time. I just want to make one.
I went off the
quick-
rails. This is not supposed to be Q&A. My
So,
my fault.
I just want to, hopefully what happened here is that they found out that we weren't going to lay down like the other townships. And that what we did here made a difference. And I know you got to pass the ordinance, but hopefully it never gets used.
Well, we appreciate you coming in tonight, sir. Anybody, I'm sure there's a few more people here. Maybe.
Okay. All right, Corinne Graper, Washington Township. Tonight, we have a text amendments that we want to submit. I hope you will read them and take them to heart. I spent 10 hours last weekend reading the whole thing, using AI. I know we don't like it, but I needed to use it, to understand the technicalities here, and then rewriting things. We also consulted with the environmental law firm Sugar Law that is consulting to the residents group on the ordinance too, so I hope you will read them. A few things. We know they're 50% here, so I acknowledge there's known gaps, and it's a 50%. I think it's a good start, but there are some legal loopholes that multi-billion-dollar corporations will exploit. The ordinances don't account for the federal EPA rules that have been set aside by the Trump administration to accelerate data center creations. So it is on us as a local municipality to fill those holes in. For example, companies are allowed to start building before they have clean air permits. And then once they start building and they can clear the land, it makes it much harder to stop. So we need to fill in the gaps that have been set aside by the federal EPA regulations. Ordinances do not cover infrasound and subaudible ground vibrations. They don't cover toxic chemical fire runoff, and we have no jobs requirements, and those can be put in ordinances. So in the previous drafts we shared with you all, we did have a jobs category in there to require that if you're going to take up hundreds of acres of our land, you can't have 50 jobs. You got to have more jobs at a certain rate, or you have to pay the township the equivalent of that, and they can put it in a trust to improve our community because they won't be offering jobs. The violations and penalties area, we talked to Sugar Law about that, and they said, we were excited about it. We're like, ooh, you can get a 90-day jail, go to jail, that's awesome. And then she said, well, it's actually not enforceable. She's never seen that be enforced, because what they do is say, well, it was the plant manager's fault. No, it was the VP's fault. No, it was the president's fault. No, it was the other person's fault, and they just pass the buck and nobody actually goes to jail. They just get the $500 fine. So I think both the financial amount needs to be increased, as well as in these amendments, there's another pathway, which is to shut down their operations. So they can't operate until they get back into compliance. The heat island effect only addresses cool roofs. Barry, to your point, you also brought up the servers inside make immense amounts of heat, so there are other things in these amendments here that address the internal heat that comes from the servers, so look at those, please. From a chemicals list, Mike, the Great Lakes water, they don't list all of the chemicals that are in data centers and in the coolants, and so relying on Great Lakes Water Authority, we miss some of the chemicals that could be in our soil and our land. So again, we can't just rely on Eagle and Great Lakes and the EPA, especially when there are federal holes. We should require them to pay for third-party analysis. So when they do environmental impact studies, we should require that they pay for our cost to do those. Others speaking after me will elaborate, but I will just say data centers do not belong in IRT. I know that's not decided yet. Yes.
So my name's Roger Delancey, and I'm going to defer my time to this young lady here.
Thank you. All right. One other thing I want to make.
Can't do that.
Is there an ordinance saying that?
Yes.
Robert's rules.
Well, then I guess I will just say watch the Facebook group, because we will be talking about how the township supervisor knew about this for a year and how this entire wing right here has been working with him on this. It's not their fault. They were directed to do it by the township supervisor, but we have emails from the FOIA that we put in that show that they have known this since late 2024. And in March of 2025, they were actually working with the developer on this, and there are emails that confirm that both our township and Macomb County were in favor of this. So when our township supervisor gets on Facebook and says, I want to be transparent with you all, remember back in December of 2025 when we all found out about this 2 days in advance?
Ms. Draper, your 3 minutes have expired.
Well, I know, Peter, you're friends with Sam, and I know you've also been in the emails.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, I've heard that. So it's very upsetting, very, very upsetting that we have been lied to, and we have not been supported.
You got to step away from the podium. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Danielle Barrett. I live at 14330 28 Mile in Washington. Corinne is just trying to get our $800 FOIA's worth of information out. So I want to focus on Section 5, and I apologize I have to read. I just came straight here from a business trip. I want to focus on Section 5 of our proposed amendments regarding utility infrastructure and controls. Our township water engineer noted in his report that the sanitary sewer system is the ultimate bottleneck. We cannot process mass amounts of industrial water, yet the current draft ordinance calculates data center water usage on a generic daily average. Data centers don't dump water evenly over 24 hours. They perform massive system flushes all at once. A single surge flush from a 1 million square foot facility will completely choke our downstream pipes. Also, in the scenario Corinne was referring to, all of the chemicals are not covered by Eagle and GLWA, and in the situation where they don't dump to GLWA sewer systems, it's going straight through ours and then into the Healy drain. So think of that what you will for wells downstream of that. The current text also allows data centers anywhere in public utilities to touch property's frontage. A developer can use a tiny pipe connection on one corner of a massive 312-acre lot to force a giant utility extension across our rural borders. Finally, data center fires require massive chemical cleaning agents and intense water mist suppression. If a fire breaks out and thousands of gallons of toxic chemical-laden water will flood our open county ditches and poison our agricultural soils. The residents' suggested amendments create strict hourly peak surge caps requiring developers to use on-site equalization holding tanks, ban utility extensions further than 200 feet, and mandate a subterranean fire containment vault to trap toxic runoff. We must place We must protect our water grid and our farmland from being overwhelmed. I also agree that data centers do not belong in IRT. They have heavy industrial water, energy, air, and noise impacts and belong in industrial zoning. And 48 seconds, Barry, I agree and understand your concern with the generators running from 8 to 8 and affecting your dinner, but please remember, there's 3 schools within a mile and a half. Their whole day is within that time frame. They can't get away from the noise, they can't get away from the infrasound, they can't get away from the particulate in the air. It's a little bit more for them on a daily basis. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Carlos Pisano. I live in Washington Township. I'm here to speak regarding Section 2 and Section 4 of our amendments, which focus on noise and safety setbacks. Right now, our ordinance completely lacks defined physical distance setbacks between these massive industrial complexes and our homes or schools. As written, a developer could legally place a roaring chiller yard or a high voltage substation right up against a neighborhood fence line. Additionally, our current noise tables look at standard airborne sound, but they completely ignore infrasound, which is low-frequency acoustic energy that travels below 20 hertz. You cannot hear it with your ears, but your body feels it as a non-stop pulsating vibration that passes right through drywall, rattles windows, and causes physical room fatigue. Worse yet, our current rules do not protect outdoor youth facilities, leaving our kids' soccer and baseball fields open to being flooded with industrial rumbles. Our solution is a proportional safety setback. Our text establishes a baseline setback of 750 feet from homes and 2,000 feet from schools and sports fields. If a developer chooses to build a massive hyperscale facility exceeding 100 megawatts or builds a giant substation, those safety setbacks automatically double to 1,500 feet for homes and 4,000 feet for schools. It also establishes a strict international limit of 800 decibels of the G-weighted scale to stop sub-audible vibrations in their tracks. Let's keep the industrial rumble away from our families and classrooms. I also agree that data centers do not belong in IRT. They have heavy industrial water, energy, air, and noise impacts and belong in industrial zoning. I was a few weeks ago in a commission meeting in Rochester Hills, and they were discussing their ordinances. They had something very interesting to me about monitoring sound, which is something Mr. Dukai brought up. They said that they're mandating to have sensors on the premises of the development being there installed, and the city has to have access to them. So I think this is very interesting. I mean, we cannot just rely on a complaint to go and check when we can define those rules. I don't think there's a reason for us to not do that. About the utilities not being ready, they can provide a plan, but what happens if the plan is delayed? I think that's another point that we need to, or we should consider there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kate from over on Pilgrim. First, I just want to, say about Corinne, she's worked really hard. She spent a lot of money on this, and for her to feel like she's been lied to is frustrating. And for someone to, I just want to say that I understand her frustration, and Mr. Praveed is taking all the credit for this, and she's the one that worked her butt off for it, and the residents, not him. So, right. Anyway, that being said, I want to direct your attention to Section 3 of the document, of the data center document that we proposed, regarding site timelines and professional review fees. The federal government just recently loosened environmental permitting rules specifically to speed up the data center construction, which Mr. Ryan touched on. I liked what he said. I can't wait to see what he has to say. Under these new rules, developers are now allowed to clear land, grade soil, and pour massive concrete foundations before their final state and federal air emission permits are even approved. This is a calculated corporate legal strategy designed to force sunk costs into local communities, which would be us, If a tech giant spends $100 million tearing up our land and pouring concrete pads under these weak federal rules, they will use that momentum to pressure this commission into rubber stamping their dirty backup power infrastructure later. Our text mandates that the data centers can never sneak through using a phased or core and shell only site plan. It dictates that no shovel can hit the dirt, no tree can be cleared, and no concrete can be poured until every single local, state, and federal permit is 100% finalized and past its appeal window. It requires a mandatory escrow cash fund paid for entirely by the developer, so Washington Township can hire our own independent acoustic engineers, environmental and health consultants, and toxicologists to audit their data. We must not spend taxpayer dollars to verify corporate claims. I agree, data centers don't belong in RT. Oh, thank you. And I lost my spot. Oh, they have heavy industrial water, energy, air, and noise impacts. Also, I think ongoing noise monitoring should be required, and whether the developer has to do, noise, like industrial noise decimeters or whatever. I don't think the residents should be responsible to monitor the noise and then have to come here with a complaint. I think there should be language in there that specifies ongoing noise monitoring throughout the construction. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Camille Allensworth. I live here in Washington Township. I'm here to speak about Section 6 and 7 regarding the economic intensity and law enforcement. Data centers are notorious job deserts. They build massive million-square-foot automated server warehouses that draw immense amounts of power from our grid and lock up our finite industrial land, which we really want to fill up. But they only employ a few dozen security guards and technicians. And Goal 1 of our master plan explicitly states that our industrial zones must promote economic sustainability and high-quality employment for our residents. We cannot allow these developers to hoard our land while giving nothing back to our local economy. In addition, standard civil code enforcement fines are a joke to multi-billion-dollar tech company. If we fine them just a few $100s a day for violating our noise or water laws, they will gladly write the check as a cheap cost of doing business and keep on polluting. So we really need to make sure that it includes in the ordinances that any unauthorized site disturbance or any violations should result in shutdown. Like what you were saying, that you would take them to court for the water. I think that if I don't comply by the rules or the laws, I go to jail. So I can't continue doing my life as normal. They should have the same repercussions for not complying to our ordinances. Any unauthorized site disturbance prior to total permit finalization shall result in the immediate permanent revocation of the township site plan approval. And that breaking ground, clearing land, grading soil, or pouring concrete foundations based on pending or incomplete environmental permitting is a violation of this code and shall result in immediate denial of the application. And I did some research from another lawyer who is fighting some information about what is this called? Sorry, anyway, the Zoning Act. And in a 2010 case, Hendy versus Putnam Township, they said, the Michigan Supreme Court ruled, the zoning of land is an exercise of a government's police power. And I want you to take that seriously when I talk about making them pay and making them face the consequences of not complying with our orders. I also want to mention that there was one comment that these, Kayla, in the ordinances, you said that these encourage compliance. Yeah, no. They need to compel compliance. We should not be encouraging. We know that they don't take incentives. Otherwise, they would be doing that. Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Hello.
My name is Eddie Kabasinski. I'm a candidate for House of Representatives, but I am also here with Anthony Hudson, who is a candidate for governor. And we are in lockstep about this here. It is being called an industrial research and technology district. I call it bait and switch. Because when politicians, developers, and corporate lobbyists start throwing around fancy words like technology campus, innovation hub, and research centers, what are they really saying to this? We're about to industrialize your community, and we're hoping you're going to be distracted long enough not to notice it. Washington Township wasn't built to become a giant server farm for multinational corporations. It wasn't about to be building a power plant for artificial intelligence. It wasn't about to be building for some company headquartered thousands of miles away that can suck up local resources while residents are left dealing with the consequences. The previous proposed project, it covered hundreds of acres on 32 Mile Road. The residents have repeatedly raised concerns about electricity demands, water usage, noise, environmental impacts, and the lack of clear answers from developers. Township officials have delayed decisions and worked on new ordinances, like this evening, because there are so many questions that remain unanswered. And here is the part that should be very concerning to every taxpayer, not only in Washington Township, but in all of Macomb and maybe in the entire state of Michigan. We're told these projects bring jobs. How many? A handful compared to the massive footprint they consume. We're told they bring economic development. For who? The corporations. Because when the dust settles and the servers stay, the infrastructure stays and the burdens will remain forever. The industrialized zoning says that, but for the executives cash their checks and they move on. They have their golden parachutes. What happens to the rest of the community? Washington Township residents have packed meetings, submitted objections, and demanded answers because they don't understand something that the political class doesn't. Once you give away your communities, you don't get it back, ever. This isn't about being anti-technology. It isn't being about pro-local control. It's about protecting property rights. It's about protecting the character of the community that families spent generations building. And if this project is truly a wonderful idea, then build it next to the corporate headquarters of some other big multinational corporation. In short, when Anthony Hudson becomes governor, and if I get elected to the House of Representatives, we will work on a 2-year mandatory statewide moratorium to stop this nonsense with data centers and solar farms. Thank you for your time.
This is the water from my well. Our community has the best water in the state of Michigan according to our well driller. My well has been tested chemical-free for years. I expect you to require heavy industrial business to have detailed waste management and disposal plans. This is what heavy industrial is required to do in other industries. They need to tell you what chemicals are being stored, how they're being handled, and how each chemical or electronic is being disposed of. Require all chemicals to be public information so those of us on a well can test for it. Do not allow heavy industrial sites to operate unless it has a quarterly update to its plans, and then require random checks twice a year. I expect them to pay a monthly third-party test for water quality and air quality, starting from site approval through at least 5 years after the final build phase, and then test quarterly afterwards. Chemical spills take time to find, so let's not be surprised later. Your job is to keep them responsible for our water. This jar is from the fountain outside. If all the wastewater from the large-scale data center eventually gets into your city water process and no one has tested or looked for the chemicals that data centers are using, your water is going to be poisoned too. I want this to be cost prohibitive to pollute or cause harm to our community. $1,000 fine per day per I'll keep going. For violation, thank you, should be the bare minimum. Every time a generator is on longer than it's allowed, every single generator should get that fine per day. And if the violation goes on for more than 3 days or the fines are above $5,000, the whole complex should be shut down until the problem is remedied and it's re-inspected. No variances, no excuses, no waiting for long lead times to fix a problem. Simply don't pollute our community. I don't think that state or federal politicians and environmental agencies are going to fully protect us. It's our job to protect our community, to protect our water. Make sure that no one gets to trash the place. Not an oops, that we don't need any more oops. Make the violators pay big fines, shut them down after 3 days of violations, and make them want to operate a good business inside our community. Find the lawyers, the planners, and the data center experts who have fought and won ordinances across the country. Don't treat these mega industrial facilities like a car wash or a repair shop. Treat it like a foundry. Do not allow data centers inside anything but a heavy industrial zone. No exceptions, no special cases, heavy industrial only. The developers' teams have done this before. They know exactly what to look for in ordinance weaknesses. This is not the time to play small. Let's not let small town neighborly ordinances bulldoze our own community. We have clean drinking water, the water we use to wash dishes, to clean our kids, to water the garden, and allow us to live inside this community. Don't let our clean water be washed away with the cooling cycle for the robots. Thank you.
Hello, board. My name is Ned Zimmer. I came from Oxford, and I've had the privilege of watching this over the last 7 months play out. And first thing I'd really like to say is I'm so proud of Washington Township. You guys showed up every single time online. You guys are doing the work, and it is awesome to watch. Second, I would like to commend the board as well, because although of all the nonsense that we've heard and it's secret this or secret that, you guys are actually taking the time to do the due diligence and making sure that your community, if these data centers do come in, they're going to be protected. Could you do more? I don't know. The next thing I would like to say is that you're trailblazing right now. This stuff is not, there are no laws in the state, there are no guardrails against these data centers. What you're doing right now is setting precedents across the state, potentially across the country with these ordinances. That being said, do not take this job lightly. It is your job to set these standards and set these ordinances against these companies. They, like everybody before me has said, they have billions of dollars. It's chump change to them to come in and just say, throw a bunch of money at you, and here we go, here's our data center. Look at what happened in Saline, prime example. Our governor's on board with it. It seems like our politicians across the board are on board with this. So I'm not going to say anything nobody else here is thinking, but I just implore you to make sure that you are taking every step necessary to ensure that you're putting the ordinances in place and the laws in place and the guardrails in place to protect your community, protect the people of your community. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Baumgartner. I've lived here 50 years, and I was gone when this started to be mentioned. I didn't know anything about this until last winter. And thankfully, I'm on the Washington Township site, so people started mentioning it. And I was shocked that my beautiful neighborhood was being challenged, could be ruined. When I got home, in the mailbox was a article by our supervisor, and in it he mentioned 8 times he used the word safe. We want to keep our neighborhoods safe. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, what's going on? So I started coming to the meetings, and I'm just so thankful that this has been put on hold. Please think about those big businesses. The way they handled this made them look like they shouldn't be the head of any company. And they went crazy. So I thank you. I'm thankful that our neighborhood could be safe for a while. So think of how they've handled this, how poorly they've handled this, and every little thing that they could be thinking when they look for your rules. Because some of them, all they think about is money. They're crazy for money. And money doesn't feed us. No food, no farmers. Money won't help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is James. I live out in Port Austin. And I would like to say, first off, I appreciate that I came down here from Port Austin because I have family out in Texas who's dealing with a data center that's owned by Google, a data center that is in Saline Township that is owned by Oracle and has been sued into the ground by large multinational corporations. I also have family that is out in Utah. They're dealing out with that big, massive fuck-off data center. And so with that, I do appreciate that you guys are putting moratoriums in place. However, I do ask that in regards to the environmental fines, while I myself am not a particular expert in local or state law, I do ask that with these kind of companies, the fines are chunk change to them. And so with that, the only way that that it will really speak to any kind of data center is that if you must cut off their flow of capital and their capital that and the resources that are taken from our county if they violate these. So I ask that instead of a fine, like let's say they're found taking too much water, or they're discharging this and they're doing something wrong environmentally, you cut off their water. That'd be preferable, because ultimately the fines, like for example, there is what's the phrase I'm looking for? Several Silicon Valley billionaires have just massive hedges that are up to 36 feet long. LA County regulates that should only be 5 feet, and they are charged $1,000 every single day, and they pay it off. So whatever fines you guys want to put here, clearly it's not going to do anything. And so with that being said, and also I'm very proud of everybody here with dealing with all the AI stuff that's going along here. It's really good to see because, I got 3 different groups of family that are being screwed over by the AI corporations and whatnot. Along with that, I would like to say that with the moratorium, I would prefer that it be permanent, but I would like to speak to the locals here. That with these AI corporations, they do not care for you. The safety isn't real. Several of these corporations have sold data on civilian targets within war zones all across the globe, across the Middle East, across Africa, across Latin America, selling it out to various militant groups. So best believe that if they could sell data on you to a man who wants to kill you, they will sell it to them. So I ask that you try and stop them at every possible turn. And with that being said, yes, again, I'm not sure what you guys can do in terms of limiting water access in the event of them violating law, but that'll be all. Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, Marty Hutnick, Abraham, Washington Township. Okay, building on what Corrine was left off at, the emails that we have shows that the township leaders knew. And in March of 2025, you guys, some of the board members knew about this. They started actively talking with the developer. I'm not going to mention any names because you know who you are. And it's sad to see that. It broke my heart because I know so many of you guys. We don't understand, why did you not start developing the ordinances back in March of 2025, even though this was discussed in 2024, as mentioned by a previous board member? 9 months before the rest of us knew, you could have started working on the ordinances. And I'm just saying, Barry, your name was left out on purpose. Your name was left out of that email on purpose. I just want you to know that. Even if you wanted this, that's okay. Even if you wanted this, why? Why? What is in it for you guys? I don't understand. What?
I want a point of clarification.
You were left out of the
I want a
emails.
point of clarification. If it was mentioning anything with the chair of this commission, I was not the chair.
No. You were not in the email.
Okay. You sounded like you're hiding my name from the email.
No, they hid your name from them.
The first time I heard about this data center was a month before it came in front of this.
No, this went back to 2024.
Okay.
That's when it all started, it was being discussed.
Okay.
Now you take it to March of 2025 is when all the emails started flying back and forth. And then phone calls, yes. It's really sad because, the community knows this. The community knows you guys. And yeah, follow the money. We saw it. It's just really
Let me ask you a
sad.
question.
Yes.
So right now, the applicant has withdrawn. Where right now, this commission is evaluating a very strict ordinance against
you're-
data centers. So couldn't you possibly say to yourself, my God, man, look at, the Washington
yeah.
Township has done a lot to prevent this from happening.
But you're still
Require
going to
a
allow
data center
smaller
that would
scale
come
data
in,
centers.
that they would have to follow all these regulations.
But you're still allowing them to come in with a $500 fine
We are not
that's
allowing
pennies to them.
They withdrew their application. It's kind of a dead deal. And now what this commission is doing.
We don't believe you guys. I'm sorry, we don't.
And that's something that falls on you.
No, we've been lied to for so many
I'm not gonna say
years.
anything else. Just
Okay.
look at what's going on.
Have a good one. Thank you. I didn't even read that, I'm sorry.
All right, good evening. My name is Kirill Petkov, known as Tony the Barber. I would like to bring you back to square one, if you don't mind. Excuse me.
Gentlemen, sorry.
Would you pay attention? Square one. So please, let's turn the clock. Square one.
I'll give you a little extra
Okay.
time, Tony.
Here's the thing. A company, multi-billion-dollar corporation, comes to Washington Township and wants to make investment, multi-billion-dollar investment, the largest investment in the history of the township. In the top 3 largest investments in the county history. Washington Township has 11,000 residential homes. The presumptive company will consume electricity equal to 1 million residential homes. How do I know that? I don't. Why? Because none of you do. Also, none of the board members do. I've gone to step by step to each and every one of you. Nobody said anything. Oh, I don't know anything about it. And do you know why? Because the square one is false. When the company knocks on the door for rezoning, our own ordinance does not require them to disclose anything or to reveal anything about the project. We are not talking details. And in your own explanation, it was in the hallways of the township. It was on display. It said no size, no type, no utility usage, no general site plan of some kind. I want you to, it's like a ghost client. It's like a phantom client coming in, knocking on the door. I want you to rezone for me over 300 acres. They're eyeballing another 100 acres, so probably over 400 acres, and nobody knows anything about it. No benefits, no consequences, no So please, I'm not going to use it. So the point is, again, now is the time. I'm very forceful, as you see, so you guys may retain this message, to change this ordinance on square one, where if somebody applies for rezoning, the basic question, what are you going to do with this, and how big you are? Because the gentleman very eloquently told us, data centers are like anything else. They come in different sizes. Small data center, we can have. A light industrial. Large data center, it's a different. Hyper large data center is completely different. So if somebody says, hey, I want you to rezone 300 acres, what are you? Are you small, in a small room data center, or you're 2 million square foot data center? So one is light industrial or different classification. The other one is heavy industrial with different classification.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hello, folks. My name is Terrence McCaskey. I wasn't going to speak, but I kind of feel compelled now. I'm a former state representative, 35 years law enforcement, and I'm running to be your state senator. What has gone on here, to me, is a travesty. I think the lies have to stop. You didn't get to a point where where the people had to stop this data center without a lot of people knowing about it. So let's be truthful with that. You people are appointed. I don't blame you folks. We know nothing about these data centers. We know nothing about what it does to our children. We do nothing about what it does to our environment, what it does to our environmental ecosystem, to the water, to the let alone what it's going to do to our children and our grandchildren. I have 4 children and 13 grandbabies that live within 50 miles of here. I lived in Washington Township. I live in Shelby now. But each and every one of you are responsible for your kids and your grandkids. I hope you don't want to be the Judases that sell out your kids and your grandkids for a few shekels today. We have to learn. We don't even know. Why are we even considering right now, without the research, these centers in an environmental area? Consider this like a nuclear reactor. Put it somewhere. We got plenty of properties. Why do we have to put it where our children live? If the government, and I'm all for it, I'm a capitalist, I love Trump, I love that we need to be number one in the data centers, but we have plenty of property where it doesn't need. We've already sold 45% of our farmland in Michigan to the Chinese. When I was in the state rep, it turned my stomach. Our water from our Great Lakes are being taken weekly. We're selling our kids and our grandkids' futures out. And for a few shekels today, do we really want to burden our children and our grandchildren and give them maybe diseases, cancers that nobody even knows about yet? Let's do the research. Slow down. And the only reason people don't slow down, which the only reason I'm even running for office again is the politicians who are getting their pockets lined with the lobbyist money. And if money means that much to you, we're here for 15 damn seconds. We're here for 15 seconds in the span of time. I want to hear well done, faithful servant. And I believe each one of you want to do the same. Let's err on the side of caution right now for our children and our grandchildren. That's all I'm asking. God bless each and every one of you. And I'm not trying to be a know-it-all. I'm saying let's take a step back. God bless.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm Holly Bishop. I'm at 33 in Powell. Golly gee, I pour my heart out almost at every single meeting, and all I ever hear is trust the process and please be patient, and like my body can't be still. How am I supposed to trust people that my life is in your hands? Let's go back and remember that. I'm 1 mile from where it was granted. Yes, let's praise Jesus that it's been taken off the table for sure. And I do want to celebrate, but I mean, we're going to be close to that Facebook site just to make sure that nothing's getting by us. Okay, so with these ordinances, for the sound controls, IRT is grouped together with the IND. And we have heard many times that our IRT is meant to be light industrial. So IRT sound and noise should be the same as IND. It should be lower and lighter. The $500 a day, a second, whatever it is, it means nothing, and it's a huge slap in the face for me. This is my life, my family's life, everybody's life. We need to just shut it down if people break the rules. You set rules to be followed. I stand firmly with that. Money doesn't matter. Thank you so much for hiring the acoustic expert and the fire expert. Thank you so much. But we've been desperately asking for a health and safety, environmental health and safety expert. And there are 12 applications or something that we have to get through, but we're going to continue to ask. Health and safety should be number one. My health and safety is number one, and I hope we can get an expert in to solidify these ordinances. I really appreciate everything that you're doing. I hate that there's any lying or anything going on behind closed doors because it breaks my heart. And I don't want to be patient anymore, so please stop asking us to be patient. Please hire these experts to help us. Thank you so much. I hope you have a great night.
My name is Darlene Hernelstein. I also live in Washington. I've been coming to the meetings pretty much since the beginning. I know it's frustrating for you and for us. I think we all want the same thing, keep our community safe and healthy. And if you don't have that, you don't have much of anything. I know that this group is passionate and they are committed and dedicated, and I don't know anybody else who has just given their all to do all the research and look for sources to assist you or help you. I hope you will take on some, look at their paperwork that they do provide. It's not to add to your burden. I think they're trying to help as much as they can, because what you guys have to do is crucial. It's crucial to this community, and like someone mentioned, across the state of Michigan, we are getting looked at, even though the media is still, they're prompting the governor, down in Saline and all those big multi-million, trillionaires, and but small communities are starting to shut down these data centers, and I think we are kind of the running group right now, and our ordinances are going to set a standard, and I hope it's high enough and strong enough to keep any data center or battery center out of our community, because it is, again, our life, our kids, and our grandchildren's lives. The technology is scary. It really is. I don't know how many times I hear, I wish, even young people saying, I wish I grew up when you did, Mom, because you had it a lot easier, a lot more fun. It's not the same anymore. It's just hard. But, yeah, the environmentalist is, I think, huge, the next step. And, I hope you guys look into that. Any of the notes that Corrine has put together in the group, because like I said, they work very hard. As much as you guys are working, as hard as you guys are working, they're doing the same thing. So I just hope we can get on the same page and get through. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It's going to keep going on and on.
Until they're done.
We're done?
Absolutely. Everybody gets a voice.
My name's Paul Driscoll. I live in Washington. I just want to know if I could raise a hand. How many of you have actually gone down to that data center down in Saline?
I've seen the aerials.
No, you need to go down there and actually see it.
I lack time, but I agree. I would love to. I'd like to go to a functioning one myself, but they're not a whole lot close. But
Just take a look at that. If that doesn't blow you away, I don't know what will. It is worth the drive. Please, please do that.
So I think we'll close down the public comment. Just, as I always say, you guys are nothing but respectful, and I appreciate everything you guys say. I am listening. I don't ever want you to think that I am on the opposite side of where you are. We all want to keep our families safe. We're working on an ordinance to make this we're trying to do this the right way. And you can't exclude, you have to make ordinances in a way that allow things to be there, but regulate them in a way that keep us as safe as we can. So that's what we're trying, and I appreciate all your efforts. And I do see your ordinances you guys send. I do see your emails. We get those sent to us. We do see them. I am interested in some of every time you guys speak, I learn something. I just, I don't have the time to research maybe as much as some others do. Chasing kids around to soccer games and coaching and working, and I am a volunteer. We are here in that capacity. Every one of us takes time out of our day, not only to be here, but to get ready for these meetings. So I appreciate that most of you understand that. I really like the idea of a permanently installed monitor for sound. That's fantastic. If Rochester Hills has something, I'd like to look into that. And I plan on reaching out to my cohorts there. I have a lot of friends in the building department over there to see how they're doing that. But I'm sure there's monitors for everything. It's just a matter of keeping them calibrated correctly and things as well. That said, I don't want to belabor what you guys have all said and what we've already discussed, but we haven't discussed locations yet. I hear a lot of people leaning towards the industrial zoning, and I am heavily on board with that. I know we will have discussions to see how that shapes out, and that's further discussions down the road. This is not going to be done next month. This is probably not going to be done the month after that. This is and I've worked in enforcement for a lot of years. One thing that I know about ordinances is they can change. And if we get down the road and we have this ordinance in place and things are where we think they need to be, and as Mike O'Brien had said earlier, these codes are changing and they can't get enough testing on this stuff fast enough. So once we get more information, we can come right back to this table and we can discuss changes to the ordinance we drafted last month and bring it right back to the table. So know that just because we come to a solution and solve this problem with an ordinance, it's not over. Once we get new information on whatever these data centers cause or anything that can be done to curb issues that they do, we will entertain that information to develop new rules. I mean, if there's things that go into the sewer systems that they find out that shouldn't be there, I'm sure our engineering firm is going to know about that. Great Lakes Water Authority is going to know about that. These are things that I just want you to understand. Just because we get done with an ordinance is not done. That is not the end of it. It's a living, breathing document that can be changed and hopefully for the better. There's also case law that can change it to the negative. So, and we don't know where we're at. This is all new technology, new building construction. New codes are coming into effect. Michigan's behind the times on codes, so we're not the latest, greatest. We're always Michigan residential is still in the 2015. We just can't get out of our own way at the legislative levels to get these things approved. They should just adopt ICC as they get the new, and then we don't have to worry about any of this. But that's a whole different lobbying that us code people understand, and unfortunately the lawyers and the politicians can't get out of the way of accepting their lobbyists' information. But that's my opinion. That said, I'll be quiet and move on.
I have a comment too. We're all residents of Washington Township. We live here. I've been here for 20 years. We want to see this community grow and flourish. So, we're looking out to protect us and protect you. That's
That's it. I do want to,
Very good question. We can revise our ordinance, we can develop them, we can improve them. What happens when data center or any other center comes in, a ballroom, we are not afraid of ballrooms, they come in under the current ordinance, and then we find out that our ordinance is inadequate, and then we want to improve it, but they said we bought into it based on this ordinance.
Yeah.
Your improvement doesn't suit us, and it becomes invalid. So that's where
just like codes are, codes, laws, ordinances, I mean, you hear grandfather clauses, I mean, that's all, you get built under a certain law, you stay under that law unless it's regulatory, that's a whole different animal. But under what we're dealing with, zoning law, if they come in and build, they built, they're here. Thank you. Anyway, I do, at this point, I want to move on from this item. If anybody, it's just the discussion's been had, and we don't need to vote on this. We're just look forward to further discussion to keep this ordinance moving in a good direction. So please, information you have, send it along. I encourage that, and let's keep this productive. Let's keep moving forward. We'll go from there. So any other discussion from the commission? I'd like to close discussion on item 8B if we can move forward. Information to this commission goes through Dana's office, correct? Yes. Thank you. Let's move forward to project update from Mr. Kozak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you drive around town, a lot of construction activity, good dry weather this summer to get infrastructure in. Washington Romeo Medical Building, still working on internal build out to complete that. A lot of site work going on there as well as the building out front. I'm staying in that area. VNR, Van Dyke Retail is right across the street. You'll see building structures up, 2 building structures. All the utilities there are complete and paving should be coming soon. The Leo's Coney Island building there, landscaping work is done. They are working on final punch list stuff inside the building and should be opening soon. Heading a little bit south, a lot of work here on Van Dyke. You'll see multiple different projects. The old Rite Aid, that internal build out continues on those retail projects there, but all the site work is complete with just minor landscaping remaining.
Hey, Mike, can I
yes,
bother
sir.
you? Would you refresh us on the Rite Aid thing?
So that
I forgot we've done so many other.
Yeah, that obviously was a 12,000 square foot Rite Aid plus or minus, right? So that was divided up into 3 tenant spaces, one of which has a drive-through. That was the old Rite Aid drive-through that they're reusing. Two drive-throughs? All right? No, just the one.
You're talking about the Sheena's gas station.
No.
Oh,
Sorry, the other Rite Aid
Sorry.
that closed. South Rite Aid. Just the one drive-through.
So many.
We have 3.
Okay.
So.
Just the one drive-through for a fast casual restaurant.
Yes.
And then, I don't know if we know the other tenants yet, but.
Chipotle for the
yeah.
pickup window and then.
Yep. And then we don't know the other 2, because they're still building out, yeah. So yeah, there'll be 3 tenants there. They added some outdoor patio seating, reconfigured the parking lot.
What, a restaurant?
And then TBD.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
CBD?
No, TBD, to be determined. Don't know if it'll be a CBD realty.
CBD, look at him, his eyes lit up. The other question I have is, we have done so many things, and you kind of get squeezed together, that Rite Aid, this.
Yep.
But what about that beautiful building with all the landscaping going on near the
Cement plant.
cement, the prison?
Yep.
The prison.
Prison.
Oh, they're doing good.
The prison.
No, John.
That building that was approved by this commission, the
is
site
not a
work is
prison.
all complete, primarily complete. I think there's some paving work that has
Looks
happened, and
good.
they are working on the interior build-outs. If you'll recall, those buildings are entered from the west side, not the road side, so they're, that's why you don't see
Actually, the
doors
north
on that
side.
part of the building. And the north side, right?
And the
Both
north,
of them.
North side, yeah.
Yeah. And
What
then,
is it?
Retail
Oh, it's
uses, I think there, I don't know if there's.
Non-jail related.
Yeah, I don't
retail?
believe there's a restaurant or anything in that main building,
Wow.
but I think there was an approval for a drive-through restaurant.
There's a
on the north side
drive-through
of the site.
restaurant to the
Yeah.
north side.
They do have outdoor seating areas.
And there's
so.
some outdoor seating there, and there's a connection in the back to the trail
trail.
on that one as well.
Did a
Good
beautiful
pedestrian
job on that
access.
thing, man.
Yeah. The
Thank you.
Rite Aid that Kayla mentioned is the Sheena's gas station to the north there. They're still working on the site and the building build-out. Near that one, Mr. C's Car Wash, all their underground work is complete. They're doing still some mass grading work on the pond area, and then we'll be starting on the building soon. And then just, again, back to the south end here, Newbury South, which is both retail up front, or commercial up front, we'll say, as well as residential in the back. Most of the utilities are in there as well. Curb and sidewalks and paving would be next, along with building construction. And I think that's it. Oh, Emerald Creek, sorry, Jewel Road, east side of Jewel Road, 43 acres off of Jewel, north of 27 rather. They are working on sanitary sewer construction. That's a residential development, with plus or minus 40 units.
Emerald Creek, 58.
Emerald Creek, 58? Oh, I don't, oh yeah, up to 60 was how it was approved. I
Yes,
apologize,
but then
58
with-
units.
then with-
But they lost a couple because of
Hey,
what.
Mike, anything going on with Washington Creek, the PUD?
They are in for engineering review right now. We're reviewing their cost estimate as the first step and have provided, I think, second set of comments back to them.
Great.
Big site,
Yeah.
massive amount of utilities and
Yeah.
paving, so a lot of details there. But yes, they are in the engineering review process.
Thank you.
So we were talking, I think it was last year, about Mountain Road was going to be paved in 2026.
8.
Now I hear it's,
I heard 8, but I don't know if that's.
I thought it was 2026, and now I'm hearing 2027?
Oh, I hope so.
If we're lucky.
If you can stall for another couple seconds, I can just give you a quick update that was confirmed by the county this week.
No, that was,
Ed.
that one was getting held off because we were getting federal money, so it
Yeah.
was taking
Yeah.
a lot longer to get
Yeah.
through the process, so that one was, yeah, when we were talking about that back back then, it was going to be several years. I think we were hoping to get it to 27, but,
So 2027 project does include Mound Road between 29 and 32. And as John said, that is a TIP project, so it's federally funded.
Okay.
Feds cover 80% of it, local is 20%, and that is split between the county and the township. So you only have to pay 10% of the overall total cost.
Yeah, that's the motivation.
Yeah, so that's why we wanted to wait a year, because it's a significant savings compared, we're talking 3 miles.
It's bad.
And that'll be a combination of some overlays, some research, some actual mill and overlays, and just simple overlays. For 2026, just to update, 27 Mile Road between Van Dyke and Jewel will have an overlay applied there, including underneath the bridge, which has deteriorated pretty significantly over the last few years. And Jewel Road between 28 Mile Road and 29 Mile Road will get a full overlay as well. And then there's some crack sealing on 26 Mile Road at Shaner, 32 at Fisher, and Mound Road from 26 to 29. That was overlaid last year or the year before. So they'll come back in and they're going to catch all those cracks and seal them up before they can get any worse.
Thank
So
you.
a lot of road work still happening with the county's cooperation.
Thank you.
Oh, and this year will be 26 in Hayes, that intersection is getting improved as well, pretty significantly. New signal, turn lanes, a lot of safety improvements there. That's all.
Anything ever come of that MDOT meeting with regard to their they were talking about having an MDOT meeting with discussions about.
30 mile? Or
No, M53.
at what?
I know they were talking about having an MDOT meeting.
They've been working closely with them for improvements at the 30 mile and
something
M53
about-
intersection for fire access. Yeah.
I mean, I know they were talking about doing that, that light, only for emergency vehicles
Correct.
and whatnot.
Yep.
I mean, are they at some point gonna think about putting bridges across these places just so we stop having people get
No.
raped?
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't see anywhere where they're going to entertain the funding that's going to be required there. It's just
Yeah.
too much money. And right-of-way acquisition and losing
Yeah, I
property
mean, just, I mean,
and what's already
just the
built.
nasty accidents that are happening at these cross sections is just.
They are looking at pretty significant improvements to the way those crossovers work though and the
Yeah.
XL decel lanes.
They
So
need to do
that's
something.
all underway.
we could use some of that.
Yeah. Anyway, I digress. Move forward to Township Board update.
Thank you. At the last board meeting, we did have a representative from the Romeo District Library come in and update us on the expansion at the Grosvenor branch. Things are going apace there, so there's construction going on, and it appears like it's going well. That's all I got on that one.
Perfect.
I got a couple little more things and something else. We're replacing the roof on Fire Station number 1. We had to bump that a couple of years ahead of time, budget-wise, just because it's getting in bad shape. And there've been a lot of, with the addition of the police there've been antennas and things added to the roof, so it's leaking in a couple of spots.
Which one is Station 1?
27.
That's 27.
Yeah, 27 mile one. Also, with the board signed an agreement through the Metro Act with Gateway Fiber, so at some point in the future, they will be coming into the township, installing fiber optic lines similar to the other vendors that have done the same in the past. So there'll be, at some point in the next year or 2 or 3, there'll be other trucks out there digging more holes.
Is that a new cable company?
They do high-speed fiber, and they're allowed to come into the municipalities and put it in, so we don't really get to say no. They just have to meet a couple of small requirements. So, let's see, we also signed a resolution changing the interlocal agreement for the Parks and Recs to clarify some language with regards to the length of it. And the one that I wanted to get to was, we received a letter from Kirkenhuth, the law firm, regarding a PFAS lawsuit that came from a law firm in Louisiana. So it kind of came to us in a little bit roundabout way, which was odd, and it wasn't presented, that it came from a particular law firm. So we had some discussion about it at the last board meeting, but at the next board meeting, we will be having a representative from Kirkenhuth come out to explain what that lawsuit is, why or why not we should participate, and how we can benefit from it. It's basically the big settlement, against, I think it's 3M and the others, where they've got $1 billion fund, and if we have some damages, we can collect. So we don't want to turn our nose up at any money that we could get for that, but we'll have to find out whether or not we get anything at all. And lastly, we had an update from the Macomb Property Development Rights Committee. They, and I owe you something, I forgot to send it to you. But basically, the Macomb Purchase and Development Rights Program is a committee where they go out and they work with farmers to get the farmers to sell the development rights and put those in a conservation easement. So basically what it does is it preserves the farmland. With those development rights gone, the farmers will still own the land, but it's got no commercial value. It only has value as farmland, and it can only be used for agricultural purposes going forward. So once that's done, the property is going to stay agricultural forever. It does a couple of things. It protects the farmland that we want to protect, but it also makes it, and this is one that I think I like the most, it makes it affordable for new farmers to come in, to afford property. Instead of paying $80,000 an acre, they can buy something a lot cheaper that they know doesn't have development costs stacked on top of it land-wise. So you can afford to get into farming again. So I'm a member of that committee, I enjoy that program, and I will get you something so you can post it.
Dana,
I'm done.
if I may, Dana, didn't we entertain that some years ago? Didn't we try to implement that, and there was no takers?
We've had several discussions, and I know Abby was a big advocate, I think
She's still on the board.
she's still on the board. So, it definitely has been something that's been discussed over the years,
Yeah,
multiple times.
Just earlier this year, we had a family that put 100 acres into a conservation easement. Over the past few years, I don't know the exact number, it's well over 400 acres in northern Macomb County that has been preserved. So-
Beautiful.
Cool. Very cool. If you're farming it.
That's a good question. I don't know the details on everything.
Yeah, there's an agricultural exemption.
Is there? I thought they got that anyway, but I'm not sure whether actually putting it
You have
in
to apply for it.
the easement does it.
That's why you see a lot of developers, they purchase the land and they'll farm it before they
They'll lease
develop
it.
it for years, just so they get that exemption on the land.
Yeah.
while
And
they
it
wait for
controls the
development.
water, it controls the area.
It's not a bad thing. So, I'd like to entertain a motion to adjourn if anybody would like to make that.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Good meeting,
Thank
guys.
you.
Appreciate it.